it's alive. If you could imagine that. Everybody seems a little, it's like it seemed like, first of all, it seemed like the whole place is the witness protection program. You are in, and people are going to think that I'm ripping on Jacksonville. I actually had a great time. I had a great time. But Jacksonville, I mean, it's a Bermuda Triangle. If you lost a friend in Jacksonville, nobody would be like, oh, that's crazy. They'd be like, yeah, you probably did. You probably misplaced a couple family members over there in Jayville. Duval. That's what they say when you're there. They say Duval County. And if you listen to Jacksonville Jaguars games, you can hear that in the background. Duval. And they say that, and that's Duval County because that's a wild county. And because Jacksonville, I mean, it's just, everybody seemed like they're in the witness protection program. You know, I was even talking about this on stage. It's like, nobody's giving out any information. Everybody's kind of got a court case pending a little bit. And it's diverse as can be. You meet a white person, but they are black. You meet a black person, but they are not, they are Jamaican. You meet a Jamaican person, but they are Hispanic. You don't know what's going on. You almost need an attorney even just to introduce yourself. I mean, you need like not an attorney, like a word attorney, a translator. You almost need a translator just to meet people. Because I did not know what was going on. But we did it down there in Jacksonville. And it's basically it's kind of like the Sacramento of Florida. Because Florida is a wild place. First of all, you have like you have a lot of money down at the bottom of Florida and along the coast. You know, you got a lot of good old boys and a lot of black community or African American. You might have, and you also have a lot of African American. I mean, you have like American black, and you also have African American, like people that are straight up from Africa. You also have a lot of, Jamaica. I mean, it's just a damn buffet. And that's what you get over there. And we were in Jacksonville, and I was performing at the Comedy Club. And at first I walked in, man, and I had some, I didn't have any prejudices. I had just against the place. It was like a huge comedy club. This comedy club, it was almost like in a gymnasium, but they had made a comedy club in there. So it's huge. Your friend could go to the bathroom, never come back. You never see your friend again. You never hear from them. Maybe like a couple years later, you get invited to their wedding. Like that kind of shit. The comedy club was probably 30,000 square feet. So you gotta, I remember when I walked in, I was like, what the fuck, son? It's wild. And my boy Dean down there runs it. And Dean used to play football down there, and now he runs his business. And we had a blast. And it also had like this kind of black business vibe. And if you want to say that I mean that in a racist way, then you can say that. But I grew up in an environment where you had black businesses. And a black business, man, they got anything could happen in a black business. You walk the show, the show's supposed to start at 10:30, it's going to start at 11. That we're going to have a fashion show right before, you know what I'm saying? Like just a surprise, motherfucker. We're having a chili cook-off. You're like, what? It's 1:15 in the morning. And then they got a couple of bad bitches up there with bathtubs full of beans and meat. And it's just that kind of vibe, man. You just don't know what's going to happen sometimes. Like they could raffle off a Buick in the middle of the show and you wouldn't even be shocked. So it just kind of has that wild vibe, But it was awesome to see, man. But at first, I was humbled a little because I get used to being in maybe like sometimes fancier clubs. And you don't realize that you need to be humbled until you are humbled. And I'm so grateful for that kind of stuff because the last thing I want to get infected by is my ego. Because my ego will be the death of me. And it will be the death of my joy. But man, we were in there. And dude, they had this guy. So the MC is this guy, Antoine. And I don't know if I've ever been around a guy that was more entertaining to be around. So he's a black gentleman. And he starts telling me that his favorite television, that he's been watching 90210 reruns. And man, for some reason, that just, I don't know. It's the last thing I ever thought to hear this dude say. And we just had a mixed group it was like 3 black comedians, 3 white comedians, and everybody was having a blast. Everybody was having a blast, man. And we were sitting backstage and everybody was joking. Nobody was a better jokester. Nobody was, because somebody had only been doing comedy for 10 months, they weren't allowed to joke, or didn't feel like they could put their 2 cents in. Everybody in the green room, all of us had the worst haircuts. I mean, they had this one dude, one of the openers, he looked like every character from Roseanne, all in one person, this Russian fellow named Andre. And they had this other dude, man. Man, I'm still having fun. That's how much fun I had. They had this other guy. I can't. What was his name? I feel so bad right now. But all he kept asking me, he had to have these new sex robots that are out. And it's like a $1,700 investment, these sex robots. And now they got some of the urban ones, but I'm one of the ones that like a lot of rappers and that sort of, that vibe, that are going around in that vibe. The big asses, like all of a sudden these robots are out here, they got big titties and, and these, bat-ta-tot-tots, boy, these fucking batats, and they got these battery operated cooters and everything. And they got these ass cheeks and you can make them pop and, sprout or whatever they call it. I don't know what they call whenever you shake your ass and somebody, I think it's called sprouting. But all the robots can do all this shit now. So this dude, man, this other comedian guy, and I just don't remember his name. And he wanted me to put a down payment, right, on because he thought I had some money. He wanted me to put a down payment on one of these fuck robots for him. And man, to listen to him pitch this idea to me that, if you're going to buy a fuck robot, you got to have a brother try it out first. And it's kind of fucked up not to share, you don't want to be racially insensitive and not share your fuck robot with a black man. And I mean, dude, we were laughing so hard. So I don't know. It made me feel good? It made me feel good to be in an environment, because there's so much out there these days where, there's so much black and white that's the race problem in America. Because when you look at it, there's other races seem to get along okay. Where we seem to kind of evolve in to each other some, or try to. I feel like if you're not trying to do that, it might not be happening in your life because it might not even be your fault. But if you're not trying, then that's probably not super solid. But I feel like, but black and white seems to be that big issue. Black and white. And so it was nice to not be on the computer or not be on social media or on Twitter, which has turned into just a bunch of people just trying to fuck farts. I mean, it is just a fart fuck on there. And I'm sorry to use that kind of language. And I really am. But it is... I mean, there's some people still having a good time on Twitter, and then there's just a bunch of furious people about politics, and just a bunch of fucking Muppets out there, a bunch of button Muppets. But it was nice to be in a real environment with regular people talking about stuff and just having a good time. People who were not the same as me. And sometimes you might think, well, Theo, you talk a lot about black and white stuff a lot, and I guess I do because that, it's pretty near to my heart, I guess. Because I see it as something that makes a lot of uncomfort in our country. And I think just in my own heart, because it was tough growing up in an environment where it was pretty mixed. And being a child, you want to help people, or wanting to help people that have less than you, or it feels like they have less than you, or, and then getting to adulthood and being made to feel like you're not a good person because you're white, when most of your life you feel like you've tried to make every effort not to be white, but to be a person. So man, we had so much fun that it melted. By the end, man, I was having a blast. By the end, I was doing comedy in a warehouse. Dude, you should have seen the sign outside. It wasn't even lit up. There was a picture of it on my Instagram. Not a picture, but on the video. Dude, the sign, like people, they said 2 weeks ago a homeless dude rolled into the club, right? He rolled into, the children's clothing or the automotive section or wherever he came into this. I mean, dude, this place is a warehouse. And then they have like a little stage against one wall and then just a ton of tables. And you can hear everything. Dude, if somebody has a bad idea 200 feet away from you, you can hear it go off in their head. I mean, the acoustics were just not good. But we had a blast. And we had so much fun backstage that we couldn't help but have fun on stage. And when I go back and do Florida again, I'm going to have some of those same guys come and work with me again because I just had so much fun. And it was nice to be in an environment, when you hear all of this stuff, race relations are so bad and people are, and fuck this and no equality and this and that. And then you get into a place where we all have one common goal to make some people feel some laughter and have fun. And one dude's goal was to try to get, me to put $1,700 down on a robot he's going to fuck in Florida. It was almost like that, back to that Debo thing, with like, it'll be Beaufart's, but I'll just keep it at my house. With Debo trying to steal that boy's bike in Friday. But it was, man, we had a blast. We had a blast, dude. And Jacksonville is, if you want to go to a place that's diverse and you don't even know what's going on. And look, man, people have shirts are optional. Dude, you see people walking across the street, maybe a shirt, maybe not. A dude will come walking out of a restaurant, no shirt, with a dog in his arms. And I'm not talking about a guy that works for the the pet rescue. I'm talking about just a regular dude, a regular playboy trying to get a snack, And man, they were so excited about the Jaguars, about the Jacksonville Jaguars playing that game. And I think that team played its heart out, and I think that they'll be in the AFC Championship for the next couple of years. They have a really good chance. But man, we had so much fun. I had a good time. And I went in there a little bit, I guess because it reminded me, somebody just pledged on Patreon, and I appreciate that. I want to thank the Patreon supporters. This week, we got that new camera coming in. So we're going to be getting to some new levels. I can't thank you enough, really. But I want to, yes. So, but man, we just had a good time, and we did it, and we got the shows done, and the audiences were mixed, and everybody was laughing. We were laughing, man, and it was ridiculous. But you see a dude, man, they have people in wheelchairs, people in high chairs, people on crutches, people on stilts. Jacksonville, you don't even know. They had one dude he said he got some new bracelets. He was in shackles. This dude was obviously had escaped from prison. He said he got these new bracelets. Like, dude, nobody's believing that shit, but why don't you sit right up here by the front of the stage so we can keep an eye on you, cat daddy. But they had neck tats. Oh, a lot of beautiful neck artwork. Nothing to make you really appreciate artwork like that, like an aorta running right behind it. And the fans that came out. I had a special moment. This group had come out a while back. This man, I think his name was Nolan, and his wife had come out a while back, and they were pregnant. And then they came this time, and he's like, "Do you notice anything different?" And I remembered them. But he's like, "Do you notice anything different?" And he's like kind of pointing at his wife, and I'm like, and the pervert in me jumps to the front of my head, and I'm like, I'm thinking she got, jumped up a couple of cup sizes or something. I don't know. And I'm trying not to look at his wife when we're right there. And then he showed me the picture, that the last time they had a baby or were pregnant. And then this time they'd had a baby, and just, it was just cool, man. They had come back out in like a special moment, and their life had gone on. And it just made, I don't know, it made me feel good to like, I was like a little bit a part of their life, and they were a little bit a part of mine. You know, and last time they'd seen me, maybe I didn't have as bad as a haircut, you know? And last time I'd seen them, they didn't have a baby in their life. And next thing you know, bam, here we are again. And they cared enough to bring it up to show me, you know, because that was the difference. The last time his wife had this bump, you know, she had that gestation rocking. You know, she's rocking those mesters, man, those trimesters. You know, because you catch a strong hit of seed, ladies, and you start egging it up. And next thing you know, you with child. And so it was just cool, man. It was nice that then they took a special moment to come to obviously get a sitter or to have a parent or a step parent to watch the baby. And they came out to my show to spend some time with me. And then cared enough to show me that, you know, say, hey, look, this is what was going on in my life last time I saw you. And then here we are again. And it was cool, man. They had a guy who was tweeting with me or DMing me before the show saying he was nervous to meet me. And that made me feel, I said, well, dude, I said, well, now I'm nervous to meet you, you know, because now you know, like, now, I feel like I'm on a blind date. But yeah, man, a lot of special people came out. You know, it was fun, man. A lot of people that came out that were fans of this podcast, that were listeners of this thing, you know, that we're doing. And it was, I'm trying to think of who else came out that was special, man. They had a young fella drove in with his mother, and that was nice to see, you know. Because I've never been to I've been to my mother's my own comedy show before, but just to go do something with my mother, we hadn't really done that yet, you know. But anyhow, it was fun, man. So thank you, Jacksonville, for having me. And I will be back. And I just had a blast. I had a blast just being, you know, just a worker among workers. And I got to this club, man. You can't have a big ego in a club like this, because we need all hands on deck in that kind of a place. You know, and everybody needs to show up with a good attitude, and that's what gets it going. Because if you told me right now, okay, we're going to hollow out this Walmart and put a small comedy club in one corner of it, I'd have been like, that's a horrible idea. But if you told me today that we couldn't do that, I'd say, well, we just did it this weekend, and we had a blast. So thank you guys for coming out to that show. I watched that Cormier fight, that Cormier and Odesmere. I think it's Odesmere. And I don't know if you know about this Daniel Cormier, but he's a Louisiana guy. And at first you think he's a chef. Oh, Daniel Cormier? He makes those expensive TV dinners? No. Daniel Cormier is a cage fighter, prize fighter. And he was out there, and he's a national champion. He has one of the title belts, and he's out there. And I don't know if you've seen his body. I mean, this guy, you can't tell from watching if he's 6'4" or 5'1". He has like a very unique body style, like the thigh bone's connected to the neck bone. You know, you're like, what? Like he almost looks he looks like a really strong caramel that somebody taught to fight. And he's out there and he kind of fights with both arms. Like he just has this, it's almost like it's a bit of a dance in a way. And look, this man would beat my ass. This man would finish me off like a drumette. You know, this man would suck me down like a meat drumette. But he was out there, Daniel Cormier, and he'll like punch with both of his arms at the same time. So it's almost like this wave of aggression that was coming at Odesmere. And Odesmere this guy, he could have been 11 feet tall, dude. I don't know what ratio I had my screen on. It might have been 16:9 or something, so I don't know. But Odesmere looked like he looked like the youngest son of a polar bear. He looked like a lean polar bear, like somebody like a polar bear just worked out so hard all his fur fell off, and he just got real lean. And he had the long legs, white legs. Just like, damn, you know, like you don't even, and he got that name, Odesmere. Let me see Ozdemir. Ozdemir. So, dude, and you're sitting there trying to figure out his name. You're trying to buy a vowel, and then, damn, he hits you. His arms, One of his arms looked like it was probably 4.5 feet long. And he just hit you with one of those polar pops. Just pat-ow. You know, he just hit you with that polar pop. And next thing you know, you ice cold. Next thing you know, you waking up in the frozen food section out there and out east of the city. And you're ringing the bell for help over at the bakery section because nobody's paying attention to anything in the grocery store and it's late night hours. And you just got polar popped by Mr. Odesmere and you woke up out there in the frozen food section. But Cormier, you know, you could see how, I mean, that first round, and when you looked at him, the confidence that Cormier moves with is what got me. And look, I don't know a ton about fighting. I don't claim to know. I used to not even like to watch these fights. Watching them made me feel a little bit scared. Like, that's how much of a puss I am sometimes when it comes to, you know, being out in these streets. Is watching a real tough fight. I mean, I'd put on knee pads or something even if I was just watching at the house. You know, I'd check my PPO if I was even just watching at the house. But you had Cormier out there, and they're, you know, like, and at first, the first like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, it was all punches. I mean, and I loved it. It was like watching two men that could do other stuff, choosing to punch, choosing to box. I mean, it looked like gladiator style stuff. You know, a couple of like placement kicks and trying to keep each other this way and that way. You know, look like a little bit of Polish dancing here and there, but a lot of punches being thrown. And I mean just man shit, where you standing up there and still punching even though you getting punched. And then they went down to the ground, and I thought it was going to be over. Because Odesmere, one of his legs just popped straight out like a white flag. I thought he was trying to surrender with his foot. I thought he was trying to wave that foot out there. And then the bell saved the gentleman. And so they came back out for that second start, that second round. And it was almost like the first round. It was like somebody pressed fast forward on the first round. And before you know it, Cormier had him down on the ground. And just a series of punches where you're like, man. It was just I almost liken Cormier to, like, I don't know if you ever heard that story of John Henry, the steel driving man. But it was a long time ago. They have this, you know, they have this old story. I'm going to look it up right now. It was a long time ago. It's a folk hero, and he worked as a steel driving man. His name was John Henry. And he was the best. If you put that man in the cave with the hammer, he was the best. And he would just beat up the rock, and he would get all through the rock and do whatever he had to do. And then one day they came along with a machine. And they said, well, this machine can do this job. We don't need you to work anymore, John Henry. And John Henry said, I can beat that machine. And I don't remember if he beats the machine or not. But I know he dies trying. And that's what it reminded me of Cormier, man. He just started putting this kind of punch. And it was a slow, organized, systematic punch. It was like when you are knocking, say your girlfriend's cheating on you, and you know she's in there with a man. And you already took a few deep breaths in the car because you're not really into her anymore. You're past her, but you're still going to go in there and deal with that man. So you take a few deep breaths, maybe do some light meditation, maybe get the Headspace app or something, and use that for a minute before you head up to the door, and you're going to knock on that door. And you knock on that door, just because that knock is going to resonate different with your old lady and that man back there plugging at each other's parts, you know, and hiding cock inside of your wife or whatever. If he's doing, you know, back there freaking cock hiding, because a bang, 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 that's erratic. They're going to jump up. You know, somebody might try to get out a window. Blah. You know, somebody might try to hide under a pile of dirty clothes. Dude, I did that one time. Tried to hide under a pile of dirty clothes, dude. Oh. First of all, I think some of the clothes was like a baby's dirty blanket or something. You ever had a man beat your ass in a pile of dirty clothes? Then you haven't really, really lived, probably. And that actually happened over near Tallahassee in Florida. That was a long time ago. But I've had my ass beat in a pile of dirty clothes, man, and that will humble you. That will humble you right there, boy, when a big boy puts you on the fucking, you know, introduces you to that 2-arm spin cycle. And suddenly, he's beating the dirt off of y'all. He's beating the dirt off of y'all, man. He's doing that laundry on you. But that's how this was. It was almost like going up to the door of your ex when you know she's in there, or your girl, you know she's in there with a man, and just that slow knock. Because you know that you are in control of this situation. You're going to get in there, you're going to whoop some ass. You're not going to do it erratically, though, because you don't need the relationship anymore. You're past it. But you're still going to get in there and beat some ass. And that's how Cormier just rocked him with this hand. It was just this slow, planned thing. He just knew his execution was so efficient. And it was uniquely efficient because he's an awkwardly built man. And I don't say that to judge him. I mean, dude, I'm fucking built. Dude, I built like a little bit like a beat down syndrome. If you catch me, in the realms beyond, when the Lord was forming me, I mean, I was like a Plinko chip, and I almost could have fallen into that DS hole at the bottom. But instead I got barely regular. But Cormier's just a unique guy, I mean, his thumb joint's connected to his calf. I mean, he's just this nasty caramel out there that's going to stick you to the mat. It's going to gum up your teeth and stick you to the mat. And I liked watching them after. I liked watching their press conferences after too. Because you could tell Cormier, he said, by 40 years old, I'll be done fighting. He's 38 years old now. And look, when I watch these men fight, I watch them do something that I could never do. I do not have the spinal column or the balls to do that. I could fight somebody for charity. You know what I'm saying? I could probably beat up a ginger. I could probably beat up a real lean ginger for charity. And I'm not talking about ginger, a woman's name. I'm talking about a redheaded fella. Or a strong woman. I fight a strong woman if we got the contracts and everything. And everybody's clean on, all the gender stuff. But man, Cormier, after he said, I'm 38 now, and by 40 I won't be doing this. So he said, when he prepared so much exactly, and to see his preparation go exactly as planned. And you believe that with him. You just believed it. You believed he knew his plan. He came in and he just did exactly what his plan was. And it was going to work or it wasn't going to work. But you saw a man who had been in his craft and been in his realm for a long time. And that he knew he wasn't going to waste time. He needed this opportunity. He wanted to win. He wanted to defend his title. And he wanted to get the most out of his career while he still could. So he'd worked hard and planned ahead and made the most of his opportunity. That's what I gathered from listening to it. Now, I'm also no expert. I'm no expert at all. And if you want to be like, Theo, you're a fuck muppet, you don't know, you'd probably be right. But I'll say this about Daniel Cormier. That man is built like a damn shiffer robe with a bad attitude. That man is built like a shiffer robe, and a fucking grizzly bear had a baby. And he will just, I mean, I thought he could smother somebody. I wouldn't be he could put two kids to sleep just by putting one under each arm. These children don't want to rest. Fuck giving them a hit of Dimetap or that Tussin. Just pop that fucking, put them up under daddy's chest meat and they'd be out. I mean, dude, I bet he could press a sandwich, dude. He could make a panini right there up against his rib cage with his own wing. And he seemed like that kind of man. But also, it was cool to listen to this Odesmere kid. And I say kid, he's probably 11 feet tall. And he looks at a ladder and he's like, yeah, whatever, guy. I'm not taking it easy today. This man he could do his own work. And he said he was so young. He said he'd been fighting for a year or so. And suddenly he was at the title. And he thought that he would be back at the title. And he also seemed, one thing that was really interesting to me that was cool about him that made him seem very human was that he said, well, I'm in Boston, and tomorrow I'm going to try to get out and go see the city. And I thought that was, I wish I could have that kind of attitude sometimes. When something rough has happened to me or something that didn't go, this guy just had a chance to win a belt, a gold belt. I mean, you don't get a chance to win a gold belt unless you are in, unless you fist fighting a bitch up there on Beverly Hills Boulevard at one of these fancy belt shops, or unless you're in the WWE or the UFC, or unless you're in ancient Egypt. Those are only, you don't get to fist fight nobody for a gold belt. And he said, and he lost, he didn't win. But he was like, well, I'm here in Boston. I'm going to go see the city tomorrow. I'm going to put on some sunglasses and I'm going to go see some of the city. And I thought that was pretty cool, that he was going to take something away. Because look, man, one thing that I'm slowly learning is that if I'm going to lose, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn something. I'm taking something out of this swamp. I'm taking something out of this swamp. You might get me in here and it might be nasty and dirty. I might almost drown. I might take an L, but I'm leaving out of here with a beautiful piece of birch. I'm going to learn something. But that was some cool stuff that went on, man, that fight, being in Jacksonville. Sorry if I'm rambling, guys. I got real coffee today. I'm trying to stay off them Keurig pods, and I've talked about that, and I got that real coffee coming back in. I'm excited to tell you, too, that I want to thank the Patreon supporters. We got a new website that's being put together so we can get more interactive here. I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful. We got a lot of cool stuff happening. It's just going to be fun, man. We're going to do some fun stuff. I got some fun dates coming up. I'll be at Harvey's in Portland, February 8th through the 11th, and those tickets are on sale now. Also, we're trying to set up a video to go do. We got a hamster rancher that reached out. And a lot of you guys know that I grew up in the game. I was in, selling hamps, G-pigs out there off of Lee Road over there in St. Tammany Parish. And this man does it. He's caught up in that. And so we're going to try to do a special video where we go out and meet this hamster rancher and see what the life's like out there when he's out there. If they still using these little baby bottles, or, we had these like kind of drip rails where we put some cold milk and water all in these drip rails, and then it would just hold the drop onto the bottom of the rail. And then all these little offspring could come up and just drink right off the rail. That's how we used to feed them. February 16th through 18th, I'll be at La Jolla in California at the Comedy Store, La Jolla. 22nd through the 24th, I'll be in Indio at Fantasy Springs Casino. If you want to gamble and lose your money but also still laugh for a little bit, Fantasy Springs is a fun place to do that. March 15th and 16th, I'll be in Tacoma at the Comedy Club, and that's in Washington. March 17th in Spokane. April 6th and 7th, Tampa, Florida at Rock Brothers Brewing. That's 2 nights. And we're also getting Chicago on the books. So I'm trying to figure out where to do that. If you know a neat theater or something in Chicago that's not too big, what I'm saying? We ain't selling out the world. So we need an intimate experience. So it could be a theater or a place where they have comedy shows that's kind of, medium size, maybe seats 100, 150, or to 200 maybe. Let me know, and we'll see what we can do. We're trying to do something cool there. Also, take it if you want to email me in some. Trying to put together some art for Dark Arts Tour, and some Dark Arts shirts, and kind of that's sort of become the vibe. People have been reaching out about the dark arts and trying to stay in them and trying to stay out of them. And I got caught up this weekend in this motel, and it was a hotel actually, but I forgot to say hotel when I started talking about it a second ago. And dude, something about a hotel, I don't know if they put like something in the carpet that just makes you masturbate. But damn, if they, some of the patterns in the carpet, I feel like, you're walking down the hall and the next thing you know, you get hypnotized by the carpet pattern. Next thing you know, you jerking off and ordering Stromboli or something from a local Italian eatery. And next thing you know, it's 2 days later. And it's just something about, I do not do well, man. I don't do well when I get into some of those hotels and motels. And I just get to, I get the depression just gets in me. And I get caught up and I just get in a bad cycle. My day would be a lot better if I could just get off to that strong start. And that's where I need to really try and do some work. And I don't know if that means investing in a trainer, or what it means, but I gotta do something, because if I can get good, when I get going, I'm going onward. And I don't do bad, but I just need a stronger start. But when I look at my life, I've always been a late bloomer. And so it doesn't surprise me that strikes me often daily. But those are some dates we have coming up, and you can always go to theovon.com/store if you want to grab this past weekend Onward shirt, or we got some other ones on there. You ain't got the balls to grow the falls. The hair is growing out, and I'm going to get it actually cut up and tightened up this weekend for my boy John, who's a long-distance bicyclist, non-homosexual guy, and he's a long-distance bicyclist. And I'm going to go over there and get caught up by him, get trimmed up and tightened up. What else, man? I want to get into some other things. Oh, I do want to talk about the football games. I know, it's going to be brief here. And I'm sorry to those Jacksonville fans. It's tough. Man, it's tough to see that. But you got a beautiful community over there of, people that were kind of brought together. They had a dude last night who was supposed to be in a wheelchair, but I guess the family hadn't have a lot of money, and they put him in a souped-up high chair, like a baby's high chair. But they had it rocked out with some, some 4s on there, some 5s, 5-inch wheels. And I, at first I was like, damn, what the fuck? But then it brought me back to, this is the kind of environment that I grew up in. People out here. Dude, we had this group by us, Hoovers, and one of the brothers is physically handicapped, and he couldn't walk or nothing. He wasn't doing any walking, or they never taught him how to walk, maybe, because it looked like he could walk, now that I really think about it. But maybe they never taught him how to walk, because he lived in that kind of household. Because at certain levels of poverty and certain levels of, trickle down, lack of trickle down economics, your family, the most basic things are going to be tough for you. And they had one brother, and the older boy would just put him on his back, wear him on his back like a backpack. Because the older boy was one of the strongest kids I've ever seen. One of his teeth was like 4 teeth in one. Like that kind of dude. Like, fuck. Like super strong. Probably didn't even sleep. Probably just stayed awake forever until if he's dead, then he's gone now. But probably always stayed awake. That kind of person, Tattoos. He had a bunch of tattoos. Didn't even know where he got them. Tattoos that had nothing to do with him, R.I.P. Angela. And you're like, who's Angela? He's like, I don't know. You're like, well, fuck. Somebody knew long enough to hold you down and write it on you. You think you'd got more intel when that was going on. But he used to wear his brother on his back. His brother that couldn't walk. So I've been around that type. He'd wear him on his back like a backpack. Just hold both of his arms on his chest and just be rocking his brother. His brother was, had that limp. He was limp from the waist down, kind of. Dude, they had this one brother by me, this black guy. And his legs, he had something. Real lean legs, not a lot of muscular bone in there. He might have had zero bone. He might have had that fucking mermaidism or something with zero bone in his legs. And he got him, I remember one time for graduation, dude, he got his legs fucking braided. He had his hair braided, cornrowed, and he had his fucking legs braided around each other. I was like, damn, man. That's gangster as fuck. When you braiding your appendages just to look nice for something. So, that was another thing about Jacksonville. Just took me back to just being in regular times. And I saw this man who was in this, kind of cooped out high chair, this baby eatery. And him and his buddy was sitting there and they talking about the game. And they were so excited. And you could tell, I don't know if you could tell that they hadn't had a lot of excitement in their life. But there is something about a team doing well that brings people together. And that, when you see somebody, they're wearing the same emblem as you, even if it's a trademark, it's a national football team, whatever. Sports does that for people. It brings people together. And I was sorry to see Jacksonville lose. Because I think people are tired of seeing Boston win. You know, I even had a Boston fan, and if there's a Boston fan out there who can tell me more about this, that they're tired of seeing the Patriots win. Because I bet at some point it does have to get a little... Do you feel greedy? And I'm not saying you're taking the victory every year, but you're achieving it. Does it still at a certain point feel like it's... What does that feel like? Maybe greed isn't the word, but what does that feel like? I'm curious about that. If you feel like, you know what, let's let somebody else do it. You know, it'd be nice to see somebody else do it. And then Minnesota, they lost that game, and they ass whooped by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I apologize. I don't think there's a nicer stretch of people in America, kinder people than in Minnesota. I really don't. And I think there's a lot of kind people out there, but you know, they even have a thing called Minnesota Nice, where people are just so nice that they don't even know what's going on. You know, some guy died a couple years ago there because he had just been so nice to people. And they're like, what happened to him? They're like, he just niced out. You know, they found him and he'd just been nice to death. Just too nice. Like, damn. But I was talking to Shy Chris, who is the assistant who's helping out here on the pod here, and he's a Latino gentleman. And he said, well, you know what the thing about Minnesota was? They didn't get a team win last week. They won the game, but it was just a player beat a player at that last minute, that last second. And it didn't feel like a team win. So you had a team in there in the NFC Championship that had accidentally gotten there, it seemed like. And I'm not trying to discredit Minnesota, but that made sense to me. It was like, yeah, it felt like their team didn't win that game, but that they slipped by. So then you have to think about it. Then you have a team that worked their way into there, Philadelphia, and you have a team that it seemed like kind of slipped in. And so it's really tough for that team that slipped in, you know, because of, you know, the miracle in Minnesota. If it took a miracle to get you there, then what's it going to take to get you past through that next game? You know, a team miracle? You know, what's it going to take? Philadelphia got to be in a plane crash? Like, what would it have taken for them to get to that next game? But my team's out, so obviously I'm sour. The Saints, the Saints ate it. And their coach is out there, I think, on them perks. And he's out there dancing and doing all of this and that. And, I don't know. I'm just, I guess, pissed that my team's out. But that's your Super Bowl. It's going to be Boston versus Philadelphia. Bad accents, boy. Man, that's going to be fun, though. I am excited. I'm excited for that game. I think it's going to be good. I also think that what else is good is that Gray Block Pizza. And Gray Block Pizza is our charter sponsor, and I couldn't be more grateful to have a group come on board and help us and get us and feed the need in all of us to have that hitter. Gray Block Pizza, their link will be in the information. The Women's March came in. That thing came in hot. And we had a call that came in, and I'm going to slowly start to get to some of these. And here was one of them right here that kind of came in talking about Aziz Ansari. And I haven't listened to any of the calls. I do look through because they're transposed on the voicemail service. But so I can see sometimes vaguely what they say, or if it's somebody that I recognize that is called, or if it's somebody that needs some, direct, friendship. But I don't know. But I'm trying not to listen to them so I can hear them firsthand. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. This is Jessica from Salt Lake City.
Hey, Jessica in Salt Lake. And I've had a lot of people reach out from Salt Lake to say, come to town. And the owner of that club there, Wise Guys, this man Keith Stubbs, he sent me a direct message yesterday after I've tagged him in about 20 tweets over the past 2 years. And he said, hey, man, let's see about getting you in for a weekend. So we're going to try to make that happen there. And I'm grateful about that. Let's hear more.
Calling in about Aziz Ansari and his allegations.
Yep, Aziz Ansari had the big sexual allegations last week, and he seems to have, he got off the hook on them. I don't know how heavy the allegations were. It seemed like a woman had just recounted what to some people would just call a bad date or a sexual experience that she decided afterwards that she didn't really like. And maybe during she decided she didn't like, but he didn't get that same impression. And whether that's because he isn't keen to getting impressions from people, which I wouldn't be surprised, or whether it was just whatever. It was just a regular date and he didn't think anything of it. Let's hear more.
And I just wanted to say, maybe instead of bringing up things that we may or may not know to be true, maybe don't bring them up. And I'm saying this because you guys already feel isolated enough. We don't need to be addressing things that we know to not be an issue or be true.
Okay, so I'm thinking you're saying that, if we're not sure the truth, then let's don't talk about it. But that's, and look, I feel you. It's a little bit scary to talk about stuff when you don't know the factuality on it yet. You don't know when there's no real jurisdiction on it. But then part of that is what we do in the world. We talk about stuff. We communicate about it. We're afraid. The first time I talked about Aziz thing on the show, I was afraid to say that I felt like whenever I met him, a couple times that I met him, he was a dick. That he wasn't friendly. That he was one of the only people that ever shook my hand and didn't look at me when he did it while he was being introduced to me. That made me feel kind of less than. It made me, but then some of that could just be my own shit. Maybe that's just Hollywood. Maybe that's just the way it is. But I was afraid to kind of say that because sometimes I get afraid to say shit. To say what, I guess I worry about the repercussions in my business. Well, this guy's talking bad about comedians, talking bad about this or that. Yeah, but I think sometimes we try and talk about stuff. But yeah, maybe bringing it up wasn't that good. I'm curious to hear if you tell me more about why you think that. Onward.
Perhaps maybe we should think about things that are going on with the Me Too movement that aren't being addressed, like people not being charged for these outrageous crimes that they've committed. And I'm honestly bringing this up because this has created a divide in between me and my spouse, where he feels isolated and I feel neglected in regards to these types of issues. They're finally being brought to light, but we're looking over here saying, well, what about this guy? What did he do? It's just another distraction.
And that could be another distraction. Look, I'll say this, and I'm working in Hollywood. I'm trying to make a career for myself here. I would not put anything past Hollywood. I wouldn't put it past them because it's too big of a money machine for Hollywood not to, push and pull punches the way that they need them to be pushed and pulled. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, I'm not sure. I would bet that somebody said, Aziz is way too big of a moneymaker. There's way too many wagons hooked to this pony for him to go down. If he goes down, man, he's Emmy. I think he's an Emmy winner. He's got a hit series. He's sold out Madison Square Garden. That is a lot of money. If he goes down, we are fucked. Some people are sitting there looking and say, we're fucked financially. We're not fucked, or we're just not going to make that extra loot. So, of course, then you reach out to a writer, a PR person, and you say, look, this allegation came out. What's a neat way that we could frame this, or what's another angle we can show of this to put out there to get people to think bigger, or get people to think differently, or get people to at least see both sides of it. And now I'm not saying that Aziz was guilty of anything. He may not have been. When I read back on it and I look at just the elements that we know about, it seems like he was a dude that was trying to fuck, that was trying to get laid. She seemed like a young lady who statistically, just based on the lengths of time they've been alive, wasn't able to hook up with a lot of dudes probably. So, maybe hadn't been in this type of environment. This seemed like the first celebrity kind of guy she'd been around or been with. And he did he use his power? I don't know. I don't think so. It doesn't seem like he was like, I'm Aziz Ansari, fuck me. It just seems like he was being a dude, trying to bang or trying to catch an in, trying to catch some nut magic. And she was a young girl who didn't really know what was going on. And then I think a lot of girls are confused now as to if I just had a bad date, am I supposed to complain? Am I not complain, but am I supposed to say that? What if I just had a bad date 4 years ago? Dude, I remember being young, this girl, first time I got a hand job, jerked me off into this river. And the fish all came and ate a bunch of my damn semen. And I'm sorry for being dirty here and talking about it like this, but I remember busting out. First time I ever busted out in front of a woman. And the fish come right up there. Have it all. And I remember thinking I was going to go to hell, dude. But do I come out now and say that this girl beat me off into a river? And try to, demoralize me by making me feel that I was feeding fish with my body make? I don't know. I don't think so. So it's just, but if I was a girl and the roles were switched and there was this Me Too movement, I might think that. I might think, well, shit, I had a weird experience. I got to share mine. I think it's just vague, and when things get vague and things are vague, that's when there's a lot of wiggle room. And unfortunately, in this type of environment, there's a lot of wiggle room where careers can get damaged. But yeah, they could easily, maybe they push that envelope a little bit with somebody big to take the onus off of more important celebrities and more important issues. Let's hear more. I'm sorry to, talk on your time here, Jessica. I really am. Onward.
Maybe let's talk about how Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and all of them have yet to even be charged. Instead of giving coverage to some chick who gives a shit what she's talking about.
Okay, and that's a good point. Yeah, it's like we're talking about this weird date maybe that this guy went on, or a bad date. But then you have you have real men over here who are not being charged with real crimes. And I think the thing there is that those are real crimes, and there's nothing slower in America than justice or the legal system. And I think you could see a while before. I think those charges are probably being packaged, if you will. And they're crossing, probably legally they're crossing all their T's and I's, dotting their I's, or crossing their I's if they're fucking idiots. And they're probably putting those packages together to make those charges. Yeah, because those are bigger things. Those are bigger things. But yeah, you had the Women's March this weekend, and I've said this before. I grew up a single mom. I remember my mom got fired. My mother had a decent job at one point where she was making some money, and her boss was mean to her, mistreated her, really talked down to her. And my mother complained to above her boss. She complained to her boss's boss, both of whom were men. And my mom got fired. She got fired. And then after that, we did go into some tougher times because it was right after she had her fourth child. And I just think it was a lot on her. I think it broke her spirit some. And that's when my parents got divorced and stuff. And I just think that, so I'll stand behind any woman that is trying to make their lives better. There's nothing that's, strained me personally in my life more than seeing, women not be allowed to feel comfortable and be themselves. But this March, to me, this weekend, it seemed like a cute sign festival, if I'm honest. If I'm looking on Instagram this time, all of it seems, kind of vague. I still think it's a good idea, get together. But it also seemed like a cute sign festival. Who can make the cutest sign? Also, sometimes in a lot of this stuff, when it's vague, to me, there's a lot of room for anybody can get in there. A lot of people just trying to make money. A lot of celebrities show up to those things. Oh, they got to get their Women's March thing in because that's their avenue to make cash. You know, feminism, the feminism movement, and there's some feminists that this is a cash game to them. And that's unfortunate. But I think that smart women can see that, and smart men can see that. And so I think if those are some of the outliers of things that happen, that you have these, people taking advantage of the system, for young women to feel empowered and feel stronger, to have a voice, and I think that's good. But I think it's unhealthy when I feel like there's a lot of women out there who are being just young women who are being told that men are bad. That men are bad. And I just feel that, I see that as being not healthy long term. Because a lot of just angry women out there. You also have a lot of lesbians out there who are like out there being like, fuck men, Well, like, yeah, you're going to say that. You're a lesbian. You have no interest in men. Like, are there any lesbians that are like, yeah, men are okay? No, because they're trying to catch that split. A lot of lesbians are just undercover men, and a lot of them are out there in these streets, in these DC hotel rooms, catching these wild plastic parties and doing all of that after these marches. It's like, I'll bring your sweaty legs up into 319, and I'll wash your legs off in the tub with some Avion water, and use one of these big electric powered wieners on you, and doing things like that. So look, you just got to be wise and everything. But I think a lot of people see what's going on. I think there's a lot of people, if there's a woman out there who got a sitter for her kids, or had made her husband watch them and said, I want to go out there and walk and feel some empowerment. Man, that's awesome. I want to go and see what it feels like to be around a bunch of women and feel good. But it also seemed like a lot of stuff out there, people didn't know what it was for. Some people out there just hating Trump. Some people out there posting 50 Instagrams trying to get their cutest sign that they could. And so I think it was just mixed. But then maybe that's what it's supposed to be. Maybe the women are just marching. But a lot of women arguing, too, I saw on social media about what the whole cause was. And that shit was hilarious. Because you just have a bunch of women arguing in the street about what they're there even to discuss. Or what they're there even to talk about. But it was interesting. I appreciate you calling, Jessica. Let's go to another call here, man. Let's do that. We're here. Let's do it.
Hey, Theo. There's a new app out. Now, it's similar to those apps similar to Uber. They have this other app, I believe it's called Soothe, and it's for massages. So you enter your location, and a certified massage therapist, will come to your house and give you a massage that you had ordered through the app.
Oh, wow. I appreciate this call. She's saying you can get a massage off an app. So you can get a pizza and somebody to fucking, come over and touch your trapeziuses all in a couple of clicks of a button. Let me hear more about this, man. It sounds questionable to me.
I brought this up with my girlfriend. Anyway, she didn't think it was a good idea. She actually thought it was quite dirty. She thought the app would be used for sexual pleasures and whatnot. And we got into a little bit of an argument over, I said it's for working professionals and busy people. And she thinks it's just another outlet or excuse for creeps to have dirty massages come to their door.
I think it could be. But it could be what we're headed to. If you have to have documentation, you have to have people sign off on a release to touch each other anymore. It could be what we're headed to. There's probably going to be a special, some guy pedaling around a special bathtub or something you got to even jerk off in. Watch it. Watch. 2 years from now, there's going to be like a meter on your drain and no jerk off can go down there. And if you jerk off, you got to do it into a special tub, and they got a couple of men bicycling these tubs around. And some of these men might be Latino men, and I'm not judging them, but let's be honest, the Latino population keeps America afloat. Dude, this country it's red, white, and beige. Let's be honest. And so that'd be probably pretty wild. It might be pretty cool, Your boy Javier pulls up and just, You tip him $5 to look the other way, and he, it's mano y mano. He respects the fact that this is the way it is now, that you're not allowed to, sexually, feel any desires anymore as a man. So you have to just, and he's just running that seed tub. And it's just, and there's a lot of respect there. I could almost see that being a beautiful film. Where maybe there's somebody that lives out in the, in a field or something somewhere on the edge of town, out in the country. And he's at but Javier still bikes that tub out there and cycles that, that septical. He still cycles that septical out there so the man, can, jerk off a couple more times, and still feel like a man a little bit. And they talk about manhood shit real low key. And then, and then Javier cycles back in, and that's it. It's almost like a kind of like a new age kind of Dances with Wolves, I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, I think, a lot of women will be using that to sell sex, but that's what's happening now. I mean, look, if you don't think that the sex selling trade is going on, it's going on. I mean, you go to Backstage.com and find you an escort any day of the week. Now, I will tell you that the ladies on there that you see in the pictures are not the ladies that are going to come to your door. It's going to be a different lady. Okay? That's going to be a different lady. What they're going to show you on the website is going to be Johnston and Murphy. And what's going to show up at your door is going to be more like Totino's. You see what I'm saying? You're going to get a different product. So just beware. But what I do think is neat about, I was just chiming back in on that Women's March for a second. If you're a young girl and you see a lot of women getting together and doing something and feeling empowered I think that would be neat, if my sisters or whatever saw that when we were kids. Say we're, and it's fun and it looks neat. But I don't know if it looks neat when it's a bunch of women out there, just yelling, blaming everything in the world on, blaming all the sexism and everything in the world on Donald Trump, and blaming it on white people. I mean, there's a lot of racist shit going on out there. A lot of white people blaming white people for shit. Dude, don't do that shit. I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of it. And it's mostly entitled white people. They're now going to try to flip the script and they're blaming poor white people. Everything's redneck white people's fault, are the most racist people in the world. That's bullshit, dude. You know what I'm saying? I grew up around those people. And nobody, a lot of times, helped more people in our town and in our neighborhood that had different color in their skin than the people you're saying are pieces of shit. So sometimes I just get so sick of that, man. Because there's nothing more racist than saying that. Oh, just because someone's poor and white and they live off of a highway or are in the 4-H club, suddenly they're a racist? You're a fucking idiot if you think that. That's narrow-minded. That's just as narrow-minded as me thinking that a whole group is one way. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If there's something different, I'd love to hear a different note on that. Because maybe, and you can tell I'm agitated by it. I can feel it in my chest. I can feel my neck starting to think, my neck is starting to think a little bit. You ever get that when you feel agitated? You can feel your neck start thinking. Your neck's like, damn, man, what the fuck is up? But some of this stuff, some of these women are just out there trying to take all the blame off of them. Oh, you're a white woman? You have never done any? You never, see a lot of white privilege running around out there, trying to pretend behind different signs that they're not involved in it, and everybody claiming, just, I don't know. And I'm off the handle here, but you know what? I don't know if I've ever been on the handle. Oh, pretty fun news story right here, I'll tell you. Surgeon caught tagging people's liver during surgery. And that is some straight up G shit right there. Simon Bramhall was caught signing his name onto livers that he was performing surgery on. He was supposed to be stopping the liver from bleeding, but couldn't help but leave his mark after a job well done. Simon claims no bodily harm was done to patient, but the court didn't see it that way, and he was charged with assault causing actual bodily harm and was fined $10,000 British pounds. Come on. I mean, if somebody died, yes, lock him up. But if he's just out there tagging up a couple of organs, dude, it sounded like he grew up in Tucson, Arizona. You know, I remember when I went to school in Tucson for a semester over at Santa Rita High School out there in Tucson. And half of our class, dude, these young, you know, and this, it was mostly Hispanic, and it was mostly Mexican. Half of our class would be outside, fucking spray painting their homework onto the side of the building. They were like, I did fucking lesson 4 right here, miss. And just tagging up the whole side of the building. I mean, some dude wrote a whole term paper on the side of a car wash next door. And so maybe that's what this dude was doing, you know? I think it's kind of innovative. I think it's kind of neat. If they could do it, though, like, what's he writing it with? If he's writing with a scapula, you know, or something sharp, that's probably dangerous. But hey, man, whatever you got to do. Was he putting it on Instagram? If he's not putting it on Instagram, it don't even count. So, yeah, man. What else, dude? Oh, the government shut down. Good. Let it shut down for a little bit. I'm going to be fine. You know why? Because I'm able to take care of myself. I have a job. That's it. I don't need the government, man. If we shut down some of these news media outlets, I think maybe we can finally find some peace in our day. I don't know who has more blood on their hands sometimes. You know, to me, this government's been inefficient for 40 years, man. Rich getting richer. Poor aren't really being helped, aren't really being inspired. But I do feel like there's a little more inspiration out there these days, so that is good. You know? And also, I don't fucking know. I don't know. And also, I didn't get much sleep last night. I got up in Jacksonville this morning, 5 a.m., caught that flight here to Los Angeles. One more news story. Ultra runner wins marathon by hiding in a bathroom. Kelly Agnew, a record holder for the White Rim Trail and runner-up at the 2013 Pony Express Trail 100, found guilty of hiding inside of a porta potty during the race, and then when everybody went by, cutting corners, hitting that end of the race, popping out that shitter, and catching that medallion. And I remember during Mardi Gras, they had a lot of homeless people or just people that were alcoholics would sleep in the shitters out at Mardi Gras at night. Oh, sorry, I just had to clear my throat and caught a whole oyster of just snot. Ooh. That thing could have had a pearl in it, boy. Dude, I could have put that thing on a cracker, put a little bit of lemon on it, a little bit of horseradish, a little bit of pony sauce, that white sauce. Ooh. Fucking lit my eyeballs up. Make my dick think about me. That's how I like to have my oysters, like that. But this dude, he was hiding in a shitter, popped out, caught that medallion, tried to win the race. And that's, you get busted. You get busted doing that. You cutting corners, you hiding in shitters, dude. That's what you get. But I just want to let you know that that's what's going on out there. That's what's going on out there. What's also going on is that your business might need a new hiree. And here's an important one every business should consider if they are looking for an employee. Make your hiring process more efficient and effective. This past year, 2017, this year, let ZipRecruiter help. No one has done a better job of transforming how you find the right talent than they have. ZipRecruiter actively, not passively, not just from a park bench or from a distance with binoculars, but actively on the front lines. They actively look for the most qualified candidates and invite them to apply. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter, employers get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. Basically, they're that conduit. You put what you need on there, they put it out to everyone. Everyone gets back to them. They filter and give you the best candidates for your position. And right now, our listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com ziprecruiter.com/TPW. That's ZIPRECRUITER, ziprecruiter.com/TPW. I had this email come in, and I want to read it right now. This is an email. It said, "Hey, Theo, I'd like to call in, but I'm a little too nervous and quite frankly embarrassed. I'm a young man, 20 and a half. You know you're young when you're still counting halves. Remember that? You're like, yeah, I'm 7.5. Well, I'm 9 3/4. Man, that was fun. Now I'll try to fucking hide a year any way I can." But he said, "I'm 20 and a half and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. Long story short, I'm not happy with my life situation at the moment. I'm thinking about dropping out of school, but I'm not sure how my parents will feel about me doing so. I feel like school just isn't for me. I love to learn and have discussions in class, and I don't think of myself as an idiot. I've always gotten mediocre grades, which has always either disappointed or shocked my teachers. Anyway, I just feel lost. I've changed my majors a few times already, and I just find myself staring at back all over again every semester. Starting back all over again every semester. Sorry. He didn't spell it right, and I didn't read it right. So we both had kind of a part in that. I'm scared of how my friends and peers from high school will think about me when I see them at parties. Most importantly, I'm scared of what my parents would think of me. The last thing I want to do is disappoint them. My dad came to this country from Mexico and opened his own business, and of course he expects us to be successful in life. And of course that means school. What I truly want to do at this point is drop out and start working and save up to open my own business soon. I would really appreciate your feedback, and I'm also curious if you've ever encountered these kinds of things when you were in school." I appreciate you emailing in, man. And his name, I believe, is Jose Ochoa. This was on the email. I'm not sure if that's right or not. But I appreciate you writing in. I know it is Ochoa is his last name. Mr. Ochoa, I appreciate you writing in. Have I encountered this? Yeah, it took me about 10 years to finish college. I went to a bunch of different colleges. And I didn't know, for a while, I didn't think it was for me. I almost took that, I took an angry sense of pride in like, man, college isn't for everyone, you know? And that's true. It's not. But for me, it was, I didn't think I was going to finish. And so I used that angle to make me feel better about it. You know, if I'm thinking I'm not going to finish, like, fuck, I don't know if I'm ever going to finish college. Then for me to be like, oh man, not everybody needs college, then that's easier. It's an easier way for me to digest it and to hold on to what might be happening, that I might not be graduating. And eventually I did. And I was glad that I did because it just took it out of my life. It took it out of my life. And, you know, my mother was a very educated woman. She graduated from Duke University, second in her class. She was a smart lady. You know, she made some tough choices, and she had some tough choices to face. So I at least had that influence of college. But what made me want to really go to college and get a degree, and why I decided to finish, was a basketball coach from when I was, 11 and 12 years old. This man, Mr. Steve, Coach Steve, and I actually broke into his house a couple years later, just being a dumb kid and being ungrateful. But he told me, he said, you know why? He goes, you got to get your diploma. And I said, why? And he said, because they can't take it away from you. That's what he said. He said, they can't take it away from you. And I didn't know who they were. And I still don't know who they are. But so I got my diploma. And that was the reason. It was him saying that. It was a man in my life that took a moment to tell me something. And for some reason, from that man, I could hear it. You know, my basketball coach was one of the, I'd never even gotten to play basketball until I was 11. And so he put me on that team, and I made the little all-star team in our town. And it gave me like one of the first senses of pride that I ever felt as a child, probably, of like, because here was a man that cared enough. He would come to pick me up. Damn, y'all got me fucking emotional, man. What the hell? But he would come to pick me up and take me to practice, and And, I'd never had a man come and pick me up and take me anywhere. I'd never had it. And I just remember feeling like just a lot of, just a lot of gratitude towards him. Or maybe at the time I didn't. Now I do looking back. But I did, I don't know, at the time it made me feel good. It made me feel a part of something. It made me feel a part of something. He would pick me up over in my neighborhood, which is kind of a shitty neighborhood, and he would take me over there to the nice gym where we would practice. And we won a city championship, our team. And, it was just like things that made me feel, they made me feel like every other kid. They made me feel okay. They made me feel a little bit of pride. I remember taking a hammer and a nail and, hammering up. They gave us a certificate that says City Champs on it. And I remember just nailing it into my wall, right next to this Jim McMahon poster. And, but anyway, not to get too far off base here, but he said, you get your diploma, he goes, because they can't take it away from you. And I didn't know who they were. But now when I look back, I realize that for me, they were me. The thing in my head that tells me I never got it done. That's what it was. It was, they can't take it away from you. And also it's people, if no one can ever say, oh, he didn't get a diploma. And so this would be my suggestion for you. And college is not for everyone. I just don't want you to be quitting because not because you don't. Here's what I would say. I think if you got time to get it, maybe try and get it at your pace. Put a class on the docket each semester. Look, man, and that's what I did. I went to 6 or 7 different universities. I finally got my stuff through University of New Orleans online. I finished up with a degree in damn urban planning, dude. I'm a fucking neighborhood designer. But I mean, you get what you get, but they can't take it away from you if you get it. So my suggestion to you would be to map out a small plan, even if it's a 10-year plan, and do that and get that done. Because I think you can do it. And over 10 years, you can make it happen, man. Now, if at 5 years in or whatever, or fucking in another 2 years, you're like, fuck that, that's ridiculous, it doesn't work for me, then okay, that's it. You're done. You don't need it, maybe it's not for you. Maybe you come back later and you do it. And you mentioned a small business, but I would have a plan as to what that business is. Whatever you're doing, I would have some semblance of a plan. But at 20 years old, man, you have time to get that or get your associates or get something. And you could still go join the military for, a term or two. I mean, you still have a lot of time to do a lot of things. So whatever you do, I would try to have a little bit of a plan. I know it's hard at your age. And it might be tough to be honest with your family and your friends, but just tell them. Have that same message you wrote to me. Just talk to your dad. Look, I respect you more than anything, Dad. I mean, my father was first generation from Nicaragua. When he came here and, and he worked hard and he made a lot of friends. He didn't make any money. But I know that he found joy in a new country. And I didn't know him that much because he was so much older. So we don't have a lot of, we're not on a lot of the same page there. But I would just, I'm just rambling a little bit. But I would have a plan. Whatever you're going to do, at 20, I think I would try and have a plan. And that's going to be hard probably at 20. But if you can start to have a plan now, man, sky's the limit for you. Mr. Ochoa, the sky is the limit for you. But I commend you, man. It sounds like, you got a neat story. And I think I always wanted to go live in another country. I was always envious of people I cannot even imagine what your father went through. And my father for that point. But, we're talking about your father right now and just coming to a new place and being so, probably so scared, but also so inspired by the ability that just knowing that if he worked hard, that he had a chance. because that's what's missing in a lot of other countries. You know, we sit here and a lot of times people are marching and throwing up all this shit on social media saying, well, this is going on in this country and we need to help it. We need to solve it. Well, go help it. Go help it. There's a woman getting rocks thrown at her in Iran. Go hold a shield up in front of her. Go do something. You know, because how we can help is by people here achieving their dreams. You know, and we're doing that. You know, like a lot of the help that America does is what's going on right here. You know, and I know that's kind of a vague segue right there, but you get out there, man. I cheer you on, dude. Those are some thoughts that I have. And also, bro, if you don't like what I said, you take it for a grain of salt. I would ask 5 other people that you trust, and I would then I would just get a look at some of their thoughts, and then I'd make your own decision. But they can't take it away from you if you get it. They can't take it away. You always have it. And they, for me, were those people in the back of my head, were my own negative thoughts that would say, "Oh, you didn't get your diploma." Well, I got that thing. I got that hitter. Let's see if we do one more call, man, because we're going on long here, and I got to practice tonight. I'm actually gonna have to run. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I'm actually going to have to run, I think. Chris, you in here? Yep. Is there one we want to finish out on, brother? I'm sorry.
I don't think we have time.
Okay.
We're about out.
Okay. Yeah, but that was interesting, man. I appreciate you guys' calls. We had some other things we wanted to talk about and stuff. We didn't get to them. We might do a Thursday episode this week. You know, I guess if you have some suggestions for Mr. Ochoa, was that his name, Chris?
I don't remember how to pronounce his name.
Okay. Damn, Chris, you're Latino. You don't even know, dog? Come on, bro.
For like a second.
Damn, bro. I'm just messing with you, man. Yeah, but if you have some suggestions for him, maybe that's what we'll do. If you have some, I might make a Thursday episode this week. Have some other stuff we're trying to do. We just got to get some other things going on in here. We're trying to get the studio made so we can have a guest in sometimes. And then we just have the rest of our lives to get to this week. But I appreciate you guys coming and being here this week. Man, I'm constantly amazed at the little moments that I have being here with you guys, and I'm amazed that a kid, that I don't even know, who's 20 and a half from Phoenix, Arizona, can send an email in, that makes me feel emotional and brings me back to a time in my life when a man gave me advice that I could hear. And sometimes that's the toughest thing, man. Sometimes it's like, it's crazy. You can get advice 1,000,000 times or suggestions 1,000,000 times, but it's that one time when you can hear them. It's that one time when there's just a connection, when you can hear them. And that's what's rare. That's one thing that I'll miss about life when I die, and I'm not planning on dying. Sorry, I didn't mean to get dark there, but, I think about that sometimes when, things that I'll miss. And it's those moments when you can hear somebody, and when you look back in your life, you're like, oh, wow, that man took a moment to influence me. And that doesn't mean preaching at every kid you see and telling them what's right and what's wrong, but I think there's things you can say sometimes that can help, that can help young men that need it. So I don't know if we help, if we're at all able to be helpful, Mr. Ochoa, but if guys want to hit the hotline, 985-664-9503, this is what he says. He said, I'm not happy with my life situation at the moment. I'm thinking of dropping out of school. I feel like school just isn't for me. I love to learn and have discussions. I don't think of myself as an idiot. I've always gotten mediocre grades. I just feel lost. I'm scared of how my friends and peers from high school will think about me when and I know one of the cornerstones of a real champion human and of a good man is that, he's decisive, and I'm trying to be more decisive. I know that I struggle with it, and I want to do it better. I want to make decisions better, but they got 8 for $4, but they got 30 flavors of yogurt, Like when I was young, they had they had blueberry and they had strawberry, bruh. You know? And then they also had nothing. That was the third flavor. Remember that? You ever accidentally get the nothing flavor? You know, like you would get, and you open it up, you think it's blueberry or strawberry, but it's nothing, bruh. It just tastes like a bucket of milk just gestated into your mouth, you know? That was really disheartening when my mom would let us pick out a yogurt and we got the wrong one. So anyway, I'm standing there. It's eight for $4, 50 cents a pop. You know, I'm in. They hooked me with the deal. They hooked me with the literature right there on the little thing. 8 for $4. But I can't, like, right out of the gate, I get 2 vanillas, bro. Because I do vanilla yogurts. I got 2 vanillas. But then the flavors start getting a little bit squirrely. They have key lime pie. Huh? I'm not, you know, I don't think I'm ready for that. So I copped a couple of cherries because that reminded me of when I was young as well. Cherry was like a new flavor, and everybody went berserkers for that. I copped a blueberry, even though I didn't like it. You know, we ate a lot of blueberry yogurt when I was young, and it just made me, you know, maybe I had a bad experience, I guess. But it just, I don't know. It just makes me feel poor when I eat blueberry yogurt. It makes me feel a little bit tender. They had lemon burst. I'm not doing that, okay? I think that's for, you know, it's a special type of man, maybe. You know, it might be for a woman that's just got a divorce or something. I don't know. But I'm not doing lemon burst, right? So I got a couple vanillas. I got the cherry. I got the blueberry. And I'm just sifting through these other flavors, dude. And they just started getting bizarre. They had gingerbread. I don't think we need it. And I ended up copping, actually, a couple of basic limes. Because I had lime once before, regular lime, not the key lime pie. But it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Maybe, you know, I don't know if maybe I'd been smoking cigarettes at the time. Or maybe I'd just been in a bad mood when I ate it. So I copped a couple of limes. But literally, I'm standing there. I've been at the thing for probably 15 minutes, man, picking out, you know, trying to get my selection of 8 yogurts. So I think what I'm saying here is that I could never be president. Unless I get better at picking out yogurts, man. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I guess I'm feeling kind of indecisive. There was a lot of rain today. One of the Hollywood Hills kind of slid into the street, so, you know, maybe a couple of, you know, probably some wealthy people, you know, probably lost some very expensive pets or something. I have no clue what occurred. You know, probably some $30,000 rose bushes, you know, came down into into where us peons live. But that was going on, man. That's where I'm at, Joe. Just feeling a little bit indecisive. But yeah, we got a new president. The new president's in. I thought the inauguration was cool. I never watched it before. I think I'm just getting older now where you start to kind of tune into those things. Because eventually you get old and just furious about politics and then you die. You know, that's how it kind of works for most seniors. I thought Melania, the new first lady, looked beautiful, man. I thought that she looked nice in that dress. Or I don't know if that's called a dress or not, but like this, you know, light blue smock. And I thought it was cool, the little kid, man, the kid Baron. Just to be like a kid and you're standing up there, it had to be so bizarre. I just kept kind of wondering what was going through his head. Like, does he even, you know, realize the size of this event? Does he have any idea? I thought that was pretty cool to see the kid. And there's one point, there's a video out there, if you haven't seen it, where his mom tells him to do something and he like makes like this cat hands at her, dude. So I'm looking forward to that little kid getting in the White House and, you know, burning some curtains, or who knows what he's going to do. I mean, that kid's going to go through puberty in the White House, bro. I mean, anything is possible. So I'm really intrigued to see how it shakes down for little Baron. What else? What else is in the news? We have violent weather here. The most rain we've had. A lot of bad weather out in Georgia. People died. You know, that's heartbreaking, man. Because usually a lot of times tornadoes are just, they're kind of, they're like serial killers for poor people. Like, they just attack the poor. You know, I mean, I don't know why people continue to build their homes in these alleys where these tornadoes frequent. You know, I can understand you want to get ballsy and get out there and go toe-to-toe with a tornado, bro. I actually had a NATO experience, bro. I went toe-to-toe with a NATO. I'm popping a couple of, if you hear me chewing, that's a couple of, what are these? Melatonin gummy bears. They got little gummies. And they help your brain rest at night. Because I got an active brain. My brain's active. That's what they said when I was a child. A lot of my children reports from school said active brain. Strong heart. Got the heart of a lesbian. My father always told me that when I was young. He told me I got the heart of a lesbian, which was always kind of stuck with me. I had an old dad. Some of you guys don't know. My dad was 70 years old when I was born. My dad was born in 1910. He was a missionary from Nicaragua. So anyway, what are we talking about? Let me get back to what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the tornadoes just going at poor people. And I had an experience. I was working on a farm when I was just out of college. In the summer times, I would work on a farm on the Louisiana-Mississippi border. And that was right off of Faraday and Vidalia, Louisiana. And that's where Jerry Lee Lewis is from, right around there. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. You take my nerves and you're right on my brains. So I'd be over there and I was just a farmhand, dude. I would do whatever, drive tractors, plant, clean, paint, odds and ends, man. That's what my deal was. Dude, we'd get out there. I had a knife, had a gun in the truck. We'd get out there in the morning, and we'd get out there early, 7:30, and we worked till 7 or 6:30. I mean, we worked. It was a day's work, man. I was a man. And it felt good, man. It felt good to come home. And I couldn't even think about anything. I was so tired. I would just fall asleep. I would eat with the family. They'd put me up, and then I would fall asleep. And then I would wake up, crack of dawn, and we'd go again. That was it. And you worked as much as the weather permitted. So you could work 12, 13 days in a row sometimes. Anyhow, so one day I'm working at the farmhouse. I don't know what I'm doing, cleaning or maybe painting. And they had this other gentleman that was working with me. He was thick. I mean, this boy was coming in. He might be deceased now. He was, that size. The kind of size where when you meet him, you get a good look at him because you know that you're not going to, a few years later, you probably won't get to look at them again because, they're going to head on back to the spiritual realm because of their size, And this guy was just thick and just always just sweating out of his neck and his face, and just a sweet man, dude. He was a sweet man, bro. Anyway, we're working together, and there'd been bad weather coming through, and then a tornado report comes up, and it says that there's a tornado right in our area. So we go outside, and you can literally see this tornado, maybe 2,000 yards away or a couple miles. I don't know how many yards 2,000 yards is. I mean, I know it's 2,000, but I have no clue how far that is. I made that up. I mean, I didn't, you know what I'm saying, dude? I'm guessing. So we're like, we know we got to hide in a ditch, dude. That's what you always heard, right? I think anyway. I mean, hell, that could be for anything. But for some reason, I just remembered that. I'm like, bro, we got to hide in this. We got to hide in this ditch. So we run across. And I get into a ditch, dude, right? Well, this guy, and it's a ditch, bro. It's like, it's probably 3 acres long, this ditch. It's a little irrigation canal. This dude gets in the ditch on top of me. On top of me, bro. So now I got this guy, 300-something pounds on my back, laying in this ditch. I'm heavily protected now from this storm, but just the ignorance really going through that man's skull at that time that he wouldn't pick another spot in the ditch to be. It's kind of sacrificial, I guess, that he would get on top of me like that. It didn't feel homoerotic. I couldn't feel any of his waist touching me. It just felt like all just basically just a breadth of stomach and chest, torso meat. Just Anyway, so that was just kind of a storm experience, man. I had to hole up in this ditch with this gentleman, and yeah, the storm, the tornado came close. It didn't it damaged some stuff in the area, but we were fine, and that was that. So, I don't really have any, if there's a tornado coming, I don't know, what do you do? What do you do? I guess you get in the ditch. That's what I guess that's the advice. If you got a tornado coming, get in the ditch. And if you're poor, just know that these tornadoes are statistically, they're looking for you. I don't know if Mother Nature is just a killer. And that's how she chooses to just get the poor, but it seems to be enough evidence there where there's some validity to that. What else, man? I'll tell you this, dude. Yeah, Trump is in office. We got a new president. I think change is always exciting. I think, it was interesting. A few years ago, I kind of hated. For a long time, I've kind of felt like my generation, nothing ever happened in our environment that made us wake up in the morning with any feelings or any vigor or any, like our parents had, there were, our grandparents had like Vietnam, and some of our parents had Vietnam or World War One. There was a lot of World War Two. Obviously, I'm not a big war buff. But they they got up and they had a feeling in their heart, like they had a cause, or they had I stand for this, or when they had all the Woodstock and the, people were like, or civil rights, like people would wake up with a beat in their heart for a reason to be alive. And I feel like I've grown up in this generation where you just wake up all right, I'm up, and maybe that just could have been some of my own lackadaisicalness, but now I feel like people are waking up with some fervor. They realize that, their government probably isn't going to help them out very much, and that we have to do it ourselves. I don't care what, if you're Democrat or Republican or who you support, but I feel like that's kind of cool. It's pretty interesting to wake up and have just a sense of purpose when it comes to a bigger realm of something bigger than ourselves, not just ourselves. It's like now we wake up with some fervor, and I think that's good. So that's one thing that I feel like is good. That's exciting. That you wake up with some fucking dick in your balls. With some fucking extra cooch juice in your curtains. You know what I'm saying, ladies? Like you got a little frickin' spittle in your griddle, And so I think that's exciting, man. I think it's always good when inspiration, and I think change does that. Any kind of change, if you're, if anything gets you up in the morning and gets you fired up. That's what's going on. They got the new president. They had the march. They had the Million Women March, or I'm not sure how many women it was. A lot of women. And it was pretty powerful to see, I think, a lot of the photos and stuff. Because my mother was a hardworking woman, and she delivered newspapers since I was born. And she would deliver baked goods regionally on the weekend. She tried to keep us off of welfare, and, we would get some food from the church and stuff like that. But so I think that was inspiring to see these women, getting together and just creating a bond there. Sometimes I think feminism, it just turns into like a hate men thing. And that's kind of scary. Because men, we're just doing the best we can. We don't fucking know. You think we know what's going on? No. We're doing the best we can. I mean, look at us. We don't know. We don't know. I was thinking that there's got to be some dark husbands out there who were praying for an ISIS attack on D.C., hoping to get rid of their wives, I'm sure there was a couple of dudes somewhere thinking better give Janet a big hug. This could be it. There's a great movie called Get on the Bus, if you've never seen it. It was about the Million Man March. And I think it was for when Martin Luther King was speaking. It's pretty cool, man. Charles S. Dutton's in it. But yeah, that homeless dude, man, I borrowed his headphones, and dude, the rap was horrible. It wasn't even a rap. I don't even think it was his song. It just felt taken advantage of. Which makes you think about Ronald Reagan, because Reagan, next time, when I see homeless dudes, when I see people struggling out on the street, those are Reagan's boys. That's what I call them, Reagan's boys, because if you look back, they had a law that was passed in the 60s that provided like a lot of assistance and special care for mental health people. Well, when Reagan was in office, the law got repealed, and all of a sudden, all the money that was going towards helping people that were, just straight up, just a bunch of freaking soul wizards out there, they were out on the street. And a lot of them are still out there. A lot of them have been mating with other homeless people and making, other people that are out there and that are having a tough time and troubled. And that's Reagan, bruh. That's Reagan. Everybody, Reagan takes a nice picture. He's got nice hair. I respect all that. Decent actor. But Reagan, when you see some people that are out there schizophrenic and really struggling, and those are Reagan's boys, man. So, I don't know if Nancy Reagan's still alive, but you could probably tweet at her about it. Oh, man. What else, dude? What else, man? Had some adult sex, bruh. Had some adult sex, and it was good. It was cool. It was cool. I think I gotta, make sure that when I am getting sexually involved, that I'm, making sure it's like for something poignant. It's for a real relationship or in that sort of vein. Because I'll say this, dude, if you stay out there just ding-a-linging every, piece of slick canal that pops up, it's not going to help your heart, and I know I'm almost preaching to the choir, so maybe I had a moment, a fit of weakness or something. I don't know. At the same time, you're trying to be a man, and this girl was cool. She's a neat chick, but I do realize that my triceps aren't what they used to be. That's for sure. I've really just felt kind of meek in the triceps, So that really kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, got in my head. And one of my hips was clicking. I mean, just Morse code the whole time. So that's, and this girl's a little younger than me. And so that's just, I don't know if that's a turnoff. Is that a turnoff if you're a younger girl? If any younger women are listening to this, or young men who, who prefer to be with men, if you're having sex with a man and he's older than you and his hip clicks or his bones are clicking, and I already have a weak neck. I've always had a weak neck. Never anything I feared more than a headlock. If there was one buddy I had growing up that was always headlocking people, and man, I couldn't be friends with him after a while, just out of the fear. I couldn't. I don't think I could go through a headlock, a good headlock. I couldn't go through it. But if there's any young ladies out there who do sex with older, with more adult men, is that a turnoff? Do you notice that? Like if a man's kind of, his bones are clicking or something, if you guys are being sensual. Anyway, let me know. Let me know if you know. Sober sex, man, that's sober sex. That's for children, I feel like. Sober sex is for children, dude. When you're young, you can be sober and have sex, bro. It's awesome. You don't notice all your own deficiencies or inconsistencies. You don't notice like your ashy skin, or that you need moisturizer on your ass, or you don't notice that you just don't notice all your faults. But when you get out there as an adult, you're doing sober sex, man, it's all your senses are so heightened, they're active. You just, things are getting out of sorts. It's just so anyway, if there's any children out there, do sex when you're, sober sex is for children. That's when you do it. Get out there and get your eggs moist out there. But do it when you're young, because when you get older, it's not the same. It's not the same. But yeah, man. Took this young lady out, bought her a little shellfish, bruh. They got this place around the corner. They do a nice little clam dinner. They get you a big dish of clams, and you kind of sit there. You can teamwork a little bit, and and that's really, I feel like, always been the way to a girl's heart, man. You throw her some shellfish in a lady, and unless they're allergic, if they're allergic, they'll turn red. So that's a stop. That's a no-go. Shut it down for the night, bro. When you throw shellfish in a lady, bro, you almost have to hide your dick because they come out. Their libido really strikes up. Even some of that seaweed, bro, you warm it up, that hot kale, bro. You fill a broad up with hot kale, son, you ready. You're going to have to exercise some pee control, baby. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, boy, you throw a batch of hot clams in a girl, dog. Oh, you better have some pussy control ready, bro. And I hate to use the P word, man. I know a lot of ladies don't like that, but that's what's up, man. So yeah, man, got the girl, we had a nice time, sweet gal. She works at, actually met her at a one of those, not a eat and go, what's that gas station? I think it's Hit and Run or Eat and Go. Hit and Run? No, Hit and Run I think is an accident. It's Eat and Run. She worked at a gas station, inside, not outside. She's not pumping the gas. She's not really kind of an outdoors woman. She's more of an indoor service center. She works in the service center at a gas station, dealing with, people want to pay for their gas, get coffee, snacks, and different indoor elements that she's vending in there. But nice girl, man. I met her a couple times when I was getting a tank, and then, we warmed to each other, and next thing you know, we went on, this is a second date that we went on, and she got some nice hair, and just really, she's not the brightest, I don't think, really. She's not dumb. She just isn't, when it comes to knowledge, it's not really her strong suit, I would say, But anyway, so we got sensual, and now I just got to monitor my feelings, because when I was younger, if I would get sensual with the woman, get sexual, do sexual activity, do some adult sex, a lot of times I would just kind of, hide from them, or, or not communicate. But now I'm trying to communicate clearly exactly what my feelings are. And that's tough to do, man. Living life on life's terms, man, it's tough to do. So just trying to be an adult about the scenario. So, keep me in your thoughts about that if you can, because I'm going to try to be honest with this girl. And I can always use support when it comes to that, I feel like. What else, dude? Let's get into a little bit more. Let's cover a little more sensuality. I talked about blowjobs on the past thing, oral sex. So I'll tell you about this. When I was a younger man, I was a child, really. I was just a middle-aged child. And they had one of my first girlfriends. Now, they had a girl in our school who had done some blowjobs, and that was the rumor anyway. And once that rumor hits the air, it's, when I was young anyway, it was, the girls were like all shaming her, but all the dudes were like, whoa, Tanya's got that mouth, boo boo. So anyhow, she liked me, man. She liked me. And this was like the first girl, or maybe the second girl that ever liked me. I dated another girl that really was like a young man almost. She had real short hair. And whenever we would hug, kids would yell out the bus and call us, they would call us fags, honestly. They would call us homosexuals. Even though and I would yell back, this is a girl, because I wanted to stand up for her. But that still kind of hurts my feelings, because she was a sweet girl. Real smart, and grew up to be beautiful, but at the time she was, going through puberty, and so was I, and just people were changing. You can morph into like the other sex for a couple of during puberty, you'll meet somebody during the morning, they'll look fine. In the afternoon, their neck is an inch longer, or, they hit like a feminine speed bump in their puberty trail, and so you don't know. But anyway, she and I were going through puberty around the same time, and man, our loins were fired up every day, and we would touch hands, and my just fucking legs would get straight. That's how just erect I was at that time. Just, God, I couldn't even turn my neck. The blood was just so tight. I couldn't even turn my weak little neck. Anyhow, so anyway, this other girl, there was rumor that she'd done some blowjobs. So I'm fired up, because she liked me, and she was cute and she was funny. And we went, there was a party or something, and she and I were going to make out, bro, and so this was my big opportunity. I was a young man, and I was just coming into my feelings, and my nipples were hard. One of my nipples stayed hard for, dude, probably 7 or 8 years, bro. My left nipple, I remember, it was just so sensitive, it was just a tender, just a little, it was just like a little fucking mole of sensuality at the tip of my little, chest, little boy breast. And anyhow, so we supposed to meet at this party. She and I were going to meet off in the woods, and we're going to do some blowjob. I was going to, be the recipient of this, novel new practice, really, as far as I was concerned, because it was new in my zeitgeist of thought or zeitgeist of life. Nobody was getting this. This was hot activity, man. And so we started, kind of kissing a little bit, and I was nervous, dude. I was so nervous. I didn't have any feelings in my body. And so she was like kind of getting my junk out, and a mom saw us, dude. Somebody's mom came up and saw us, and I just felt so ashamed, bro. Oh, dude, this mom walked up and saw us, right? Dude. And there was like a pine tree right there, and I went and hid behind the pine tree. Like there was no other, it was so obvious. And the mom's like, she knew me. She's like, Theo. And I just pretended like I wasn't there, bro. And I was literally 9 feet away from her behind this pine tree. And she like walked over a few feet at a different angle, and she could obviously see me. And anyhow, that kind of ended the relationship with the young lady. There was just too much. It was just, I don't know. I was just nervous, and it brought a lot of attention to you, when you could be the future recipient of the first blowjob out of all your friends. It's just, all people are asking you about is this and this and this, and, about your how you're feeling today, and making sure you eat an extra lunch. You got to gear up, and, make sure you're not, they're giving all, like, idiot kids giving you, like, don't masturbate, you gotta masturbate, like, just crazy advice, and just whatever, dude, and eating different foods, man, you gotta drink more water, you gotta make sure your dick's right, So I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, man. I remember borrowing some of my mom's lotion and putting that around my crotch and I was just a young guy. I was going through it. So that was just kind of like my first oral experience, dude. It didn't go well, and I think I carried a lot of shame from that because I was just a lot of embarrassment, and then the girl and I ended up breaking up, and I think I was kind of bummed because she was really a really cool chick, and who knows if she'd ever given a blowjob before. But anyway, that's my early blowjob story. But yeah, man, I just had I got a peach yogurt. I got a peach yogurt as well because they got these fruit bits in it, and that's good stuff. So I got that peach as well. I want to get to a question from somebody. I'm tired, man. It's late, but on Snapchat, the Blessed asked me, the BLEST asked me, what's my favorite road comedy story? And I'm going to tell you this story. This is a story that was told to me, but it's the best story that I've ever heard. So a comedian told me he was performing one time in the Midwest somewhere. And after the show, this hot chick comes up to him right off the stage and starts flirting with him all over him. And he was like a moderate looking dude. I'm an 8. I know I'm an 8. I'm a healthy 8, bro. As long as I take care of my teeth, I'm an 8. I'm cool with where I'm at. I'm not jumping in conclusions. But this guy, he told me he's like this hot chick, and he said she was out of my league. That's what he said. She was all over me, bro. All over me. So, the place starts to shut down. We have a couple of cocktails. She and I are both liquored up. And I'm like, well, why don't you come back to my hotel? And she's like, well, why don't you come with me to my place? And the next day, he had to fly out the next day at like noon. So he's like, I don't know where it is. And I think it was in Cincinnati. And he's like, I already don't know kind of where I am. And I don't know if that's the best idea. And he said the girl got kind of upset, but that she came back to his hotel with him anyway. So they start kind of making out in his room. And this girl was like one of those crazy girls that like starts biting you. You ever get that girl? Like you're just trying to kiss and she's like trying to bite you all sexually, but like, like she'll like bite you on your chin and she bites you too hard. And then you're pissed off and you're missing a little bit of skin or something on your cheek. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, this is not joy for anyone. This is not joy for anyone. But anyway, so he said she was like that. She was all over him and biting him and just kind of pulling his hair. And he didn't even have much hair. And now he doesn't have really any hair at all. So I wonder if that kind of resonates with him a little bit when he thinks back. But anyway, she kept saying, let's go back to my place. Let's go back to my place. I've got drugs. I've got pills, She kept saying that her dad was a doctor and she's got pills and all this stuff. And my buddy started to get freaked out. He was like, it was at the point where she was so hot that I kept keeping her around and I kept getting bit. But it was scary. It was scary. So finally he's like, look, you got to go. And when he said that, she like threw a phone book or something in his room. This is when they had phone books. And a phone book, dangerous fucking instrument. Thank God we evolved to just like online yellow pages or white pages, because that thing, probably a lot of spouses and weak males have lost their life to a phone book, I bet. But anyhow, he said that she threw the phone book at him, started throwing shit in his room at him, so he kicked her out. Well, the feature act, the guy who was opening up for him on the road, a younger dude, was right down the hall, right? And he heard the commotion or whatever, so he had come to his door. And while the chick is leaving, she sees him. And she'd seen him on stage earlier before, too, because she was at the show where she met the headliner. So she starts flirting with this guy. Well, he doesn't really know what has occurred. He just knows that this hot chick is all of a sudden is all over him, this young dude. And she's like, you should come with me. And so, of course, the young dude, bro, his nuts are straight up whispering in his ears, let's go. So he left. He left out with her. They took a taxi or whatever, about 40 minutes. And they get out to this house and like off this like kind of a little bit of a, not shady area, but like a wooded area. And she takes him inside and they start hooking up in this room. And she's like, do you want me to, is it okay if I handcuff you? And he's like, sure, yeah, that's cool. He's like all fired up. So this chick like handcuffs him and she'd taken some pills or something right when they got there and they're all fucked up. Well, she handcuffs him, starts giving him a blowjob, and then she passes out, like unconscious, like in his lap, like unconscious, dude. Which has got to be, I mean, I can't even imagine that. And he's handcuffed at this house. He doesn't know this girl really. And the door to the room is open. And then he sees headlights flash across the walls, like a car turning into the driveway. The driveway, right? So this dude's just losing his mind, bro. Probably just coming in his brain, but not like real sweet seed. Probably just straight up scare and fear, just juice, just flowing out of his cerebellum stem into his brain, right? And then he hears the front door open, like with keys. And a man, a grown man, walks past the room, peeks in, sees him, sees the girl, walks into the kitchen. He can hear the guy in the kitchen, hears the guy do some stuff. Then the guy comes in, picks the girl up. It's a man about in his 50s. Picks the girl up, takes her out of the room. And the whole time my buddy's like, or not my buddy, but this guy's, this guy who's there, who's chained up to the bed, is like apologizing, and the old dude's not talking to him. So he's like scared out of his mind, and they didn't have cell phones. This is before they had cell phones, so he's like freaking out. There's nothing he can do. The dude comes back in. He's like, don't make a word, don't make a sound, don't say a thing. And he sits on the bed next to the guy, and he's like, if I ever see you with my daughter again, it's not going to end well for you. And the dude is like scared and squirrely and everything. And then the guy gives the young dude a blowjob, man. And he tells him, like, if he doesn't go along with it, that, you know, I don't know, maybe bad things are going to happen or whatever. But he gives the dude a blowjob, bruh. Like with a face and a penis, dude. And then, so the guy finishes or whatever. The dad then goes into the kitchen and like apparently like made himself like a sandwich or something. I guess the kid said he could hear the dad in there making a sandwich. And not the kid. The guy's not a kid. He's probably in his early 20s. But then the dad comes back in, unlocks him, tells him if he ever sees him with his daughter again, that things are going to be even worse, and then just kicks him out of the house. So then you got this young dude walking in the middle of nowhere, no phone, gets to a payphone, calls the headliner, the dude who had kicked the girl out of his room earlier, calls her, and calls him, and says, man, you got to come pick me up. Like, this is where I am. And the headliner came and picked him up. And when the guy got back in his car, that's the story that he told him. He told him what happened. And that's the story that headliner told me. And that's the best road story that I've ever heard. I mean, it's not great, obviously, because, you know, there's a lot of crime in there. There's sexual, you know, deviancy. There's, you know, I mean, the guy, I guess, got orally, you know, raped or attacked. You know, it's not right. But it's fucking wild, bruh. You know what I'm saying, dude? That's a crazy story. And I can't imagine that this headliner could make that up. I mean, it's just too intense, man. It's just too intense, bro. So the blessed, that's the craziest story I ever heard. I know that this pod has had a lot of profanity and stuff in it, man. And I'm sorry, bro, but I'm tired. You know, I'm tired. And when my brain gets weak, sometimes it resorts to verbal, you know, it just wants to be naughty. It just wants to be naughty. He got a naughty brain. He got a naughty brain. But yeah, I'm going to break down real quick, maybe just to run through a quick recap. I got the 8 yogurts, you know, so I'm square there. I thought Melania looked good. Thoughts and prayers to the people in Georgia and Mississippi that were affected by the tornadoes. A lot of death over there. I got to get my triceps in order because, you know, this, and I got to check on this click and hip, you know, because it's just, you're losing points there sexually, I think. If any younger girls or girls, not young girls, you know, of age, adult women, have any thoughts on that, let me know. Or, yeah, women, you know, or if you're married and your husband, his body's clicking and stuff during sex, how do you acknowledge that? Do you let that pass? Man, if there's something you do, if there's like a silencer or something you can put on, like you wear a brace on your knee or something, or you know, wear like a thick accoutrement around your waist to kind of hide some of the click or muffle it, let me know. If you see 2 homeless people making out, do what I do, bro. Call the cops, bro. Every time. Call the cops. And the ladies seem like, well, what's the crime? And I'm like, if they have sex and have a child, they're going to make immediately that child is homeless. Immediately. And I don't think that, you know, outdoor people and people that are having trouble don't deserve the best, but I don't know if that's the best way to go about it. So, what else, man? Let me just give you I'll give you an update on how I'm feeling, bro. I've just been feeling a little down in the dumps, honestly, this past weekend. So, it's kind of a bummer. You know, I feel a little bit sick from that dude's headphones, but yeah, my spirits just aren't super up. So I'm hoping that tomorrow, you know, will be, I mean, obviously tomorrow's a new day, and I'm going to start off with, you know, hopefully maybe a little bit light prayer, maybe some meditation. I'm still stuck with my no masturbation policy, so that's going strong, you know, and I guess there are some positives, and I just got to focus on that. But sometimes it's not easy, you know. Sometimes it's not easy. to keep, it's just, life's tough, and sometimes you don't even know what it is, man. Like I've suffered from depression a lot of years. You don't know what it is, but it could be anything, it could be anything. So, but that's a little bit of what's going on with me. I feel like we've been going for a long time, so I'm going to postpone those oral sounds till next week, because we already talked enough about sexuality here today, I feel like, and that sort of thing. But I got another great story from my youth about oral sex, but I'll tell that another time. But yeah, if you have any thoughts on the episode or on the podcast or anything, just let me know, because I'm trying to do my best. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm literally just sitting up in my apartment, just talking into a recorder in the middle of the night. So if this ain't weird, I don't know what is, but everything is. So, but I do appreciate you guys listening to me. I feel a little bit better than when I started. I almost kind of feel like I had somebody to talk to a little bit. So maybe that's bizarre, but I don't know. Everything's bizarre. But take care of yourself. Why don't you do that, huh? Be good to yourself this week. You owe it to yourself to try and be good to yourself. Take some contrary actions. If you're not feeling good, try something different. If you got somebody to love, tell them you love them, bro. If you got a mother, call them. Tell them you love them. It's the only mother you ever going to have, man. It's the only one you ever going to have, bro. I don't care how much you hate her. Give her a buzz. Listen to her for an extra 10 minutes. Did I call Mom the other day? I don't even know what the fuck she was talking about, dude. And most of the time I don't. But at this age, even though we, had odds at a lot of time in our life, I just listen. I just listen. I just listen. I'm not saying that I'm a good person because of that. I'm just saying that that I know that one day I'll look back and probably regret that I didn't. So anyhow, yeah, sorry if I'm kind of dour. I'm just being however I can be. But congrats to the Atlanta Falcons fans. Congrats to the New England Patriots fans. Man, Bill Belichick, he's good. He's good. Pittsburgh didn't show up. They just didn't show up. But fuck the Saints, man. I love the Saints, but I just cannot deal with Sean Payton as the coach. Gotta go. Anyhow, that's enough sports talk. I'm actually going to look on some stuff online, how I can strengthen my neck a little bit. I bought this neck weight thing a while back. It's like this hula hoop for your neck. But it seemed more dangerous, I felt like, after a while than actually beneficial. But we'll see. We'll see, man. But this is January 23rd. I hope you have a great week. And again, that's what I'm ready to do. I mean, sometimes I wish I had fireballs. Wouldn't that be awesome? Somebody's talking or something and they won't shut it down, and you've been listening. And you've been a patient listener, probably for probably a minute and 10 seconds. And that's about my listen span, where they need to give a break for somebody else to kind of pop in, that 70-second mark. And if they just keep running past over 2 minutes, I'll just wing a damn, just a flaming little fuck nugget right at them. Take one of their earlobes off. Show them who's boss. Show them who's boss in this talk and listen and fight, in this talk and listen association. Oh, sorry, man. I'm just a little frustrated. And sometimes you are. Sometimes you are just a little frustrated, and that's okay. What's going on? Welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being alive. I had a pretty wild weekend. I'll get into that first. I got a new bed. I got a new bed. The old bed, not that good of luck. I had this bed probably for maybe 3 years. Not a lot of sex in it. Not a lot of good sex, that's for sure. Definitely a lot of awkward kind of laying there. Talking about why, the sex wasn't good, or why, had that PTE, that part-time erection. Because my erection, boy, that thing will file for unemployment like a motherfucker. My erection like to get that disability check. So, this bed hadn't really seen it. And also this bed, it kind of looked like a I don't want to say a lady's bed, bro, because that is gutter. You know, for a man to be in a lady's bed, that's not, and he don't have a lady, and he's just laying in a woman's bed at night. That is just something that is wild. You know, that's something that is not for, that's for outdoors. That's for another realm. That's not what's supposed to be happening in my life. And I got this bed, but it was like one of those, it was like a wrought iron kind of, you know, had that kind of cagey sort of, kind of a British. It looked kind of British, you know. Kind of like two really skinny people that were in Britain, like a man and a woman, or two men, you know, that are married. This isn't a kind of a bed where like two men that just are getting together to do sex meet up. This isn't a bed like that. This is two men that have been married and have a couple of, you know, armoires and maybe, you know, a lot of fancy books in another room, a rug. You know, it's something more like that. Or where two real thin women would meet up and be with each other, you know, and be around each other like that. So, yeah, anyway, I got rid of that and I got me a more of a wooden bed. And this thing is a damn Noah's Ark. It could weigh 700 pounds. I don't even know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it took the Egyptians to get it into the house. That's how heavy this thing was. So I got a new bed. You know, and it was a pretty good, I think of this company called Blake Avenue, you know, and I don't work with them, or BlakeAvenue.com. They got cool wooden beds. Because I started seeing this. Every bed I would look for, it's all the same bed. Or the same 5 or 6 beds. They're all sold by the same 3 or 4 companies, Overstock or Wayfair or fucking, you know, Sleep Fucker or whatever. You know, and I wanted something that was a little more unique, you know, a genuine bed. You know, because I've slept in some unique spots before. You know, I slept under a man's bed when I first moved out here to Los Angeles. And that was a non-sensual relationship. That was friendship only. And for $150 a month, I slept under his bed. And I had whooping cough, too, during that time. And I had to hold my cough in one time while he was making love to a woman. Or he may have actually just been masturbating, but also doing impressions of a woman at the same time. So I don't know what was going on, but one of those things was going on, and I had a whooping cough. If you don't know whooping cough, sometimes you feel like you have to cough. Sometimes a cough feels like it has to you, and that's whooping cough. Whooping cough is like that. It's that brother that shows up, or that rednecky dude that shows up and don't ask you any questions and just punches you in the fucking face. And that's whooping cough. And that thing beat me down, beat me up, and beat me up and down. And that's what happened to me. But I got a new bed. What else? I get up Saturday morning. I was going to do some volunteering at the Special Olympics, you know. I met this girl. You know, I met a plus-size model a while back, you know. And, a plus-size model, that's a girl that likes to eat and, you know, and look fancy. And I like that because I like to do those things sometimes. I like to eat and be a little bit fancy. And so she told me that you got to do, she said she had a family member, I think that was in the Special Olympics. I was like, I want to go and check it out. And she said that she volunteered all the time, so I checked it out. So I went down there Saturday morning. I get there, 8 a.m. Turns out the thing was on Friday. So I'm down there asking people, and I hadn't been down there before. This is at a high school down near Long Beach. You know, about a 40-minute drive. I get there. I'm asking people, you know, have you seen the Special Olympics? And people looking at me like I'm, you know, should be a coach in it, you know, or should be a damn, you know, should be running the 4th leg of the relay because I'm running around this school and this track and everything looking for Special Olympians and asking people. And it turns out, finally, I go back and look at the documentation they'd sent me, and the thing was on Friday. The thing was on Friday. And how about this? Who does a Special Olympics on Friday? Huh? Special Olympics is a weekend event. You don't put a Special Olympics on a Friday? So these young warriors and battlers and, you know, javeliners, who are have some afflictions, some of God's favorites, and they got to be out there in traffic on a Friday and mucking around, and people can't go watch them. So now I'm sitting down in Long Beach at 8:30. I'm furious. I'm furious because, I wanted to go. I was excited. I had a late night the night before at work. I got up early. I got in the car. I got down there. And, I was bummed that I'd missed it because I wanted to be there. I wanted to do it. I was working registration. It was going to be fun. It was going to be something I'd never been to before because I'd never even been to a regular Olympics. I met Peekaboo Street one time in Utah. And honestly, bro, she seemed down to, Peekaboo Street. Seemed like she wouldn't have mind if I'd have done a couple of U-turns in the cul-de-sac. But, and I remember one time they had this skeleton course out there at the Olympic. I was in Utah. I didn't go to the Olympics, but I got to go to the training facility. And they had the skeleton, and that's where you lay face first on this little bitty, it's almost like just a window, like somebody took a window out of a building and set it on the ground on an ice track, and you just go as fast as you can. And your face is just 3 inches from the ice. Man, that shit was hardy. That shit was scary. But anyhow, so now I'm furious. I guess I'm angry that my time is, I feel like I've wasted my time, even though it's not even, the time wasn't even about me. It was about being there for, the program and what was going on. And next thing you know, I had to go park by the water. I had to go park by the water in my car and just take some deep breaths. Because I was angry. Because I was also angry why you do Special Olympics on a Friday. Because you don't know what Friday is like in Los Angeles. Friday in Los Angeles, and that's Jameson Flood right there, who sent in his music, and he just emailed me back and said it is not copywritten, and so we can use that. So thank you there. We'll put a link to his SoundCloud in the YouTube, and that was this song earlier, which sounds like like somebody's, taking off your stepmother's shirt and is basically just spinning a disco ball around between her tits and blowing cigarette smoke around her neck and maybe up around her thighs and stuff. Here you go. And that's what that is right there. So, all right, I'm sorry. My audio was low. I didn't even realize that, guys. And now I'm coming in. Now I'm flexing a little bit. I had the wrong audio. Man, I just feel like, you ever had those times? Nothing's going your way. Nothing's going your way. I wish somebody would pull up with a damn van full of your way and just fucking dump that shit all over my body. Because sometimes I want things to go my way. So yeah, that's where I was. I was out there, and so now I'm parked by the water because I'm pissed. I'm pissed for one that I'm up, that I'm down there, that it's not going on, that I missed it. I'm pissed that I didn't read the documentation properly, and then I'm also angry that they do Special Olympics on a Friday, and I'm not even in them. Here I am angry about something that has nothing to even do with me. So that was pretty much kind of the highlight of my weekend. I hit a couple of men's meetings, a couple of, of the sobriety kind, and did a little bit of that. What else? I try to watch a little bit of that bee movie. It's about bees with Jerry Seinfeld. And I actually met a beekeeper one time off of Casual Encounters, and this is back when Casual Encounters was pretty popular, and that was a place where people that didn't know each other could meet up with each other blindly for sex or just for a friendship or even to fucking see some beehives. And I was out in, where was I? I don't know, somewhere, maybe, Missouri. And this gal, and I got invited I met this gal off Casual Encounters. Because I used to be out in that's the dark arts, when you're out there in the depths of the web, meeting up with strangers just to, to have some sort of a connection. And I wouldn't know, it wasn't always you were trying to meet up for some type of a sensuality. Sometimes you're just meeting up to see somebody, because you're out in these cities, sometimes you're by yourself. And so I met up with this lady, and she was a dang beekeeper. And she drove a truck. She drove a man's truck. And so, you know, it made me a little nervous when a woman drives a man's truck, because you know what sometimes comes along with a man's truck? A man. So I didn't want to get involved with that. But she took me out to the beekeeping range where she kept bees, and I got to put on the suit and do a little bit of that, you know, that smoke work, you know, blowing that smoke. Blowing that smoke all around and getting those bees chill, calming them bees down. Because bees are just like us. They obviously want the legalization of marijuana. No, bees want to, you know, if that smoke hits them, they chill out. You know, it's like basically what you do for bees is you create a little hookah lounge, and then they're so chill and calm, you steal all their honey. You steal all of that fucking butt sweet that they make. Because that's what they do, dude. They spinning honey right out of their butt. And that is damn remarkable. Imagine that. Imagine if we could do that. You find a baby who's got a full diaper, and then you just damn sweeten a cake batter with it. I mean, that would be God's plan right there. What are we even talking about? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. What else happened this weekend? Yeah, I guess I don't know. Just been thinking a lot about my own ego and trying to do anything I could think of that would help keep my ego down. You know, having an ego is scary. Having this thing inside of you that just wants for yourself. That's scary. I mean, it's, you know, at a certain point in our lives and as human beings, I'm sure our ego probably, you know, we needed it more when we had to survive more. I mean, now it's like, you have to really mess up. I mean, you have to get to some low levels to not survive, especially in America. You know, other countries, they'll leave you out there on the road. You know, you'll turn in India, you'll be a fucking speed bump in a week and a half, dude. People will be driving over you and no excuses. That's it. You know, it's over. Your life will end like that. Some of these other countries. But in America, man, you can keep going. You can keep cruising in the US of A. You know, and they'll keep giving you programs and assistance, and in welfare and double welfare and triple welfare and no whammies. Welfare vacation. You know, they'll just keep giving it. In some places, people need it, and sometimes people don't. You know, but we'll get, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know. What else? You know, I was thinking about, this weekend I was thinking about when I was young, they had, you know, I'm pretty gullible. And when I was young, they had a time where I didn't talk to my mother for probably about a year and a half. And they had a man called my school and ended up sending me an email. And this is when they had email. And a man sent me an email, and it turned out to be my great uncle. You know, and I don't even know how many my father was 70 years old when I was born. A lot of you guys know that. And so my dad was born in 1910. So the great uncle, you know, I'm keyed up. I'm intrigued to see what's going on, you know. And who knows how, I mean, he wasn't like 100 and something years old, but he was an older man. So I met up with him. He was nice. And then I had a girlfriend at the time. So we'd go over there and spend some time with him. Hang out, you know, have some snacks or something, or maybe listen to some music, some adult music. And then he one time started getting us a little bit cooked up on buying us some marijuana and liquor, apple cider liquor, you know, and we'd have a good little time hanging out. And then one time I got real high, and Melt, what they called him, Uncle Melt, like, you know, something that was frozen one time and now it's not, like that, Melt. And he tried to hook up with my girlfriend. And at first I thought, oh man, I'm just high, dude. I'm so fucking high that I think that my uncle or great uncle is trying to bang my chick. And I don't even know if we were banging. So, I mean, that's pretty ballsy of him. You know, I mean, it's nice of him to assume that I'm getting sex. But it's also kind of fucked up of him, if I'm not, to think I'm going to let him bang my girlfriend first before I get to bang her. You know, I'm young. I'm working towards those sexual goals, you know, as a child. And so anyway, I thought I was like, damn, I'm so fucking high, dude. I think this old dude's trying to fuck my girlfriend. And I'm like, this some killer weed. You know, because I've been around. I mean, I was high on some weed one time where I couldn't bend my legs one time. And it wouldn't have been bad, but I was standing up when I started smoking. If I'd have been sitting down, no issue. You know? But when I'm standing up already and then I can't bend my legs, that's, you know, it was just hell, dude. I'd have a friend of mine pick me up and lay me down. And I've been high, you know, where you don't know what's going on, right? But I hadn't been high where I'm like, holy shit, dude, this old dude's trying to bang my lady. And that's some killer shit. But turns out anyway, fast forward, my mom and I kind of reconciled. And I didn't go back over there much after that. And then my mom and I were talking one time, and, you know, I'm just telling her, we're talking about family and stuff, and I'm telling her about Uncle Melt, and she's like, who? And I'm like, Uncle Melt, you know, Melton, I guess. I assumed it was, you know, short for Melton. If that's even a name now, I don't even know. It doesn't sound like a name now that I'm saying it. Melton. Have I met anybody named Melton? I don't know. But she's like, you don't. She's like, what Uncle Melt? And I'm describing her. She's like, you don't even have an Uncle Melt. You don't have an Uncle Melton. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. And that was it, man. So some dude, I don't even know, found me somehow through the school system, hung out with me and my girlfriend, got us fucked up, tried to bang my girlfriend. Like a senior citizen, dude, that I don't even know. So, you want to talk about the Special Olympics? We've all been out there in some damn Special Olympics. You know, we've all had some hurdles and some, you know, some things, some shot put, something we've had to get off our chest. You know, we've all done some, you know, I remember the first time I ever did cocaine, man, I was running. Somebody told me it was a performance enhancing drug. So next thing you know, I'm out there on a couple of grams of that white, you know, of that fluffaduffelus, bruh, of that, ooh, you know. And next thing you know, I ran 7 miles, dude, in a pair of orange Umbros out there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, near the railroad tracks. High on cocaine, dude. I'd stop every mile and cup up on that dust and keep cruising. And that's where I was at, you know. So we've all been through some Olympics. You know, we've all been through, and I'm not knocking the Special Olympics, man, because here's the thing, I'll tell you this. If I had a heavy affliction, you know, if I had a syndrome or something that was real strong like that, I don't know that I would be brave enough to then compete. I mean, I'm afraid to compete if my hair's a little off. You know, I get nervous and self-conscious. If my DNA's a little bit wrangled, who even knows? You know? If I got split ends on my TGAC cells or whatever, you know, who knows? Who knows if I'd be out there competing like a lot of these brave women and men and children. Hold on, this cord just came out. I got to put it back in. All right. What else, man? I know this, that Gray Block Pizza is our charter sponsor. And if you're in Los Angeles, you go over to 1811 Pico Boulevard, stop in and get that hit. They got all that magic, boy. They got them Bella Goat. They got that picante pollo. They got the deep cheese. How deep? So deep. So go over there, Gray Block Pizza. The link will be in the comments, and we're grateful to them as well, man. I'm letting you guys know I'll be at Harvey's in Portland next weekend, Portland, Oregon, February 8th through 11th. February 16th through 18th, I'll be in La Jolla at the Comedy Store. 22nd through the 24th, February in Indio, California, Fantasy Springs Casino. March 15th and 16th, Tacoma Comedy Club. March 17th, Spokane Comedy Club. And April 6th and 7th, Tampa, Florida at Rock Brothers Brewing. And everything is available. Those are all available on the website, theovon.com/tour, TOUR. Dude, I get this email. You know what? You want to know some kind of shit I'm tired of, man? I get this email the other day. It says, sign a petition for people to stop taking selfies with tigers. And this is in India, I'm thinking, you know, because that's tiger country, Bali, you know, Malaysia, somewhere where there's a jungle. because you ain't just going to find a tiger. You don't find a tiger out there, on a basketball court. You find a tiger on a jungle. And this in this email is like, you got to sign this petition. We already have like 150,000. And I'm like, what the fuck? What is this shit? These are tigers, dude. Okay, and this is, it might be a little bit of a messy exchange over there, whatever second or third or maybe fourth world country this is, where some brave person is next to a tiger and trying to get the tiger to take a selfie with a tourist. But that's a huge business probably there for them. And we don't have to have that business here because we're pretty fortunate. But that dude or that lady has to have that business. You don't know how many people are eating because that tiger is out there doing work. It's like a stripper in America. And I'll tell you, you want to know when that tiger's ready to stop taking selfies, that tiger will let you know. People out here signing a fucking petition. What are you doing? You want to go save a tiger? Go to your local strip club and pull one of them pretty kittens off stage. Because that's the same exact thing. And you can say, well, it's not, well, it's this, well, it's that. It's not. That's the same thing. Somebody using something to make money out there. And you think you're taking advantage? Drive over to strip club. Let the bouncer, let Big Henry, who's probably a big African American man or a big a white guy with a neck tattoo. Let Big Henry, let Big Henry see how he feels about letting you take that tiger off stage, about getting that pretty poisse down off the stage.